dark clouds. They roll like waves over the 9 kingdoms. 9 kingdoms that were forged in fire and conflict. These waves roll in particular above the realm of Farwyde. It is the only one of these kingdoms that stands free. A droplet begins to form inside these clouds. It gets heavier and heavier until its mass is too much to bear, and it falls. It soars out of the sky, plummeting towards the last free realm. It heads towards the mountains that surround Farwyde, the reason why it stands unconquered. It plunges between these mountains, and we see a vast structure looming across the landscape. A colossal bridge. It cuts through mountains and over ravines. So tall is it that clouds and mist flank its sides. This is why it was named the Cloud March. This raindrop, well, it's a raindrop, and most would probably consider that to be insignificant. But even a raindrop can make its impact known to the world. It soars down closer and closer to the Cloud March, and we see a convoy of people, a caravan of around 50 travelers, tradesmen, sellswords, marching in an attempt to enter Farwyde. For the Cloud March is the only way in and the only way out. The raindrop splashes upon the boot of one such traveller. Lloyd, I would like you to describe the individual who is wearing this boot.
Hulking. Looks to be hulking with over armor, furs and cloaks, a thick cowled hood with just a hint of a beard sticking out from the bottom. Definitely hidden, making an attempt to look like a traveler rather than a warrior, although it's difficult with the shape that he is. Nonetheless, he keeps his head down as he rides along the Cloud March.
Excellent. And I will say that you're on foot.
Okay.
But there are 3 or 4 wagons being drawn, each by a single horse. And as you're walking, you see that one of the wheels of this wagon flicks up water as it's beginning to collect on this massive bridge. And the water flicks up and it splashes the legs of another individual. Lorekeepers, I'd like you to describe the individual who just got soaked from the waist down.
We see a small, thin, frail, elven man. Clad in grey and purple robes, he pulls his cloak hood further over his face, but perchance you spy his visage, and his eyes are covered with a blindfold. He shuffles a little bit as he feels the water hit the bottom of his body, and pulls his hands into his sleeves, but not before reaching out to the person next to him and tugging on their sleeve and saying, "We're almost at the top. The view, please. I've dreamt of this my whole life. What is the view like, my friend?"
And who are you directing this to, Locrius?
I think that would be the person directly to my left. That would be Tim.
And at first, I wouldn't realize that you were talking to me. As we flow, as we have begin to herd, our movement isn't measured anymore. It's a shuffle like cattle. So as we've fallen into the dull cadence and the lull and the back and forth, I look to this old man and grin. And I say, "High up? Looks like we're pretty damn high up."
And the old man pats you on the back and says, "Well, a bard you are not, but it will do. High up."
From birth, and he realizes that as he's pointing to your blindfold, you can't see. Have you had sight before?
"Oh, yes, but it has been some time. I fear I lost my eyes when I was but a boy, and the memories of color are vagaries like nebulous shapes in the mind's eye. But I can imagine, and I imagine that we are very high up, my friend."
Yeah, I ain't trying to pry. I just needed to know what I was working with before I went and described it. So it's and Rob, what would be the most prominent color that I could pull from where we are that I could try to describe to this old man next to me?
So, although this is a cloudy night, the starlight every now and then sneaks through the clouds, and it glitters upon the mountains surrounding you as you're marching down this colossal bridge, and it sparkles a midnight blue shining through the darkness.
And so I would address this man and I'd say, "Think blue. Do you recall blue?"
Of course, it's always been my favorite color.
Well, this mountain is a particularly lovely shade of it right now, bathed in starlight. And yeah, I think I wish you could see it myself.
As you say this, a rather hefty-looking sellsword sort of barges into your conversation, and he says, "All right, lads. Oh, it's a bit nippy up here, isn't it? But I've been keeping my mind off it, if you understand my meaning, by look over there. Look over at that freak." And as he says that, he motions with a jerk of his head to an individual that's walking on the very edge of the cloud march. This thing, I will add, is about the width of a large road, perhaps a freeway. This thing is wide, and there is a shadowy individual just walking out of the side of the torchlight. Chad, I'd like you to describe, as they all look in your direction, what they see. You read it. Can you guys hear him?
Chad, are you muted at your microphone?
I muted my microphone. Is that better? Hey, there we go. That makes a lot.
Just
okay.
yeah, just mute
Sorry.
on the hangout, man.
Okay, cool. That makes it better. All right.
So what do they see?
So what they see is first and foremost this hulking structure of a man, but you can't really see any form of skin. Anything that you can see that is skin seems to be bumpy and scaly and sort of distorted in some form of a way. He wears a hood and a cloak over his head, but it's not a full cloak. It's like it's been torn and tattered apart. And if you got close enough, it seems that with the blue light that's sort of shimmering off, that it seems to be like iridescent snake skins, and there's some talons coming, or some fangs coming from the top of the cloak that just sort of hang over the top of his head. It's completely shrouding the man's face, but you can't quite tell. But if he turns, you can see steam coming from his nose, his nostrils, and it sort of wafts in the air. And if you're close enough to stand near him, you can hear that guttural breathing as he's marching along with the rest of them.
And as you are marching, you hear this thuggish sellsword direct many of the travelers' attention to you. How do you feel about that?
Immediately, he goes on the defensive. Not in the sense that he's attacking or aggressive, but any means to conceal himself, to hide himself away. You can tell by his breathing that he's obviously been traveling for some time, and he seems to be nervous, not just for fear of being found, but just fear of disorientation almost. And hey, you over there, mind looking elsewhere? I ain't got nothing for you to stare at. You want to stare at something, you stare at the mountain in front of you.
And as you give this growl from beneath your hood, this sellsword catches a glint of your eyes, and his dull eyes widen, and he slows his pace, and he opens his mouth as if to say something, but a voice echoes across the bridge. A man, a strange-looking man, has leaned outside of one of the wagons, the wagon that splashed the blindfolded elf earlier. This man is heavy set. Looks like he could swing his arm pretty well. But old. He has a beard that wreathes around his face, but the most distinguishable feature of this individual is that his eyes, they shine, for they are diamond. And they look upon you, all of you who have been having this discussion. And he says, "You four, yes, you, would you join me, for I would have words." And on the side of this wagon, there's this kind of big, heavy canvas curtain that he's pulled aside with one of his big arms, and he opens them, beckoning the four of you inside. He's ignoring the sellsword.
I would look behind me deliberately. I know he's talking to me, but I don't want him to. I would look behind me and motion to the man standing beside me. I think he's talking to you. And I would just pull my hood down further and try and keep my head down.
No, you hooded man. Yes, you. If you wouldn't mind, please, I am actually addressing you and you over there as well. And he gestures to all of you. Please, if you wouldn't mind, this is a rather urgent matter, and I would rather have it dealt with soon. Please.
And I look at the old man. And then I look down at the ground as though to feign that I'm looking at the old man and talking to him, and I say, "He's pointing at us. Who the hell are you, old man?"
What? Who is that ruffian?
Just relax. Yeah. Don't. Just play it cool, but the big fella behind us, too.
Huh?
Yeah, well, you've been hearing him walk. Don't tell me you can't hear the clank.
Yes. He's been following our step most of the way across here. Well, I suppose there are 50-some of us here. For some reason we have been singled out, and I aim to find out why. And with a flare of his cloak, the old man starts to shuffle forward, and I think he's going to intentionally elbow the person who is persecuting the man on the fringes, the gruff-voiced man. I think that he's going to use his blindness and intentionally give this bastard an elbow right in the gut as he walks by. Excuse me.
And Raylan follows, and immediately, as the sellsword begins to sort of rise up, Raylan sort of puts his hand and he goes, "Blind old man, what are you going to do with him, right?" And he claps the sellsword on the shoulder and starts to follow the blind old man.
A second later, I will shoulder check this guy who had been so rude. I'll just clunk into him, and I'll say, "Blind old man, you know what I mean?" And then I'll keep walking.
Sellsword looks horrified, but seeing that the three of you all of a sudden united in some unspoken bond of elbowing, he staggers back, not knowing entirely what kind of situation that he's landed himself in, and he looks to the ground. The old diamond-eyed man gazes across and finally says, "You there? Yes, you."
Me? I don't think you want me, buddy. I really don't think you want me getting in that thing with you. It'll probably fall over.
My, it's quite a statement for you to say. This wagon was made in the frontier of the finest ebony oak. I'm sure it'll be able to bear even your weight, as it certainly bears mine. And he pats his fairly sizable gut. Come, for the night won't last forever.
Very well.
And as he's doing this, you can see the last thing that he does is he grabs a hold of that sellsword's shoulder, and he puts it on there. And if you finally see his claw come out from underneath, like, the cloak, and he puts it over, and on his middle finger there is a silver talon ring that sort of encases his brass dragon claw.
Next time, maybe you think about who you talk about before opening your mouth.
And he pats him down. And as he's turning to go into the cart, he just sort of like scratches his head with his talon and then like hops into the cart.
And as this canvas curtain falls back down over the gap, giving you all a bit of privacy, the last thing you see is this sellsword's eyes, and you can see that they are watering slightly from the pressure of a dragonborn's grip. And as you arrive into this fairly sizable wagon last, you look about and you see that a small oil lantern of some description is rocking back and forth attached to the ceiling of this thing. You can see that there are a number of sacks placed in a circle. There is also a kind of a small chest about this size, and it's sat in the middle of these sacks. The old man goes and he sits down upon one, and he gestures for all of you to do the same.
I think that Taxes, first and foremost, would look around, and he'd be very, very cautious at first, seeing this card, trying to kind of feel how his body will fit into this place. Like, how do we navigate 4 individuals in this cart, and am I gonna elbow someone in the face? And he gets into, if there's a shadier part of this cart, Rob, I want him to try to still be as submerged in shadow and cover as he possibly can.
Sure. So as this oil lantern is swinging, Taxis, you take note of the fact that there is a sort of shadier little spot, perhaps in the corner, that you can go and nestle in. I'm assuming as you all sit down, this old man, this individual, he sits before this chest. It looks old, but it has an intricate gold design laid into it, and fine silver makes up a trim about it. This man in his diamond eyes survey each and every one of you. He looks across to the Dragonborn, to the elf, and then the 2 men. And he says, "Well, you do me the honor of allowing me in your company. I'm humbled. You all seem cut from a different cloth than the rest in this delightful convoy that we find ourselves in. I wonder, would you perhaps grace me with your names?"
Marius would quickly say, "William."
I am called Belshazzar.
Yeah, I'm William too. Funny, isn't it?
It's a small world.
Indeed it is.
And I think at that point, Taxes doesn't even like give a name. He just snorts a large grunt out of his nose, and you can kind of see that steam still.
I'll give you a name when I know I can trust you. I don't just hand out my name like a playing card.
Looky there. 3 Williams. What are the chances?
The old man surveys you, and his eyebrows shift slightly, as if almost humoured. And he seems intrigued, but you can tell he bites it. He doesn't say anything at first. He says, "Very well. Well, in that case, Mighty Williams and playing card man over there, I shall give you mine. My name is Staflin, and it was I who arranged this little convoy. It seems that for all the reasons in the world, perhaps none, you wish to enter Farwyde. But I fear for some it may be easier than others. Me included. I have..." And he looks about. And he listens. "I think we better take more precaution than this." And he reaches into some barding that's about his clothing. You notice that it shines a little in the darkness. You can tell there's some armor in there as well. And he reaches in and he pulls out what looks to be an old, stunted, yellowed candle. And he rubs it on the bottom, puts it on the floor of the wagon. And he puts his hands over the wick and blows. And as he moves his hands away, there is a flickering flame. And he says, "As long as this flame flickers, none shall hear our words, so whatever you say in here shall not be heard." Anyway, I am returning to Farwyde. I seek to return a treasure, no, not a treasure, a legacy to someone. However, as I say, I fear for this journey. So, you ask if you can trust me? Well, I am going to decide to trust you. And he reaches for this chest, slowly. Turns it towards himself and opens it. The lid is in the way, so you can't directly see into this chest, but he reaches both of his old, strong-looking hands and he lifts out what appears to be the oldest, dustiest, raggedy tome you guys have ever set your eyes on. And he takes the chest, pops the lid down, and he appears to put a strap around it. And he hoiks the chest onto his shoulder. And he lays the tome in front of you. I need this taken to the city of freedom's salvation. It needs to be returned to an individual who goes by the name of Weaver. The reason I am giving this to you is because I fear that someone is seeking to steal this chest and whatever it contains. Now, as you can see, it contains nothing. So if they are successful in stealing anything from me, they'll be stealing an empty chest. Do you understand so far?
Marius will lean back a little bit, and there'll be this creak of leather and chain, like, and you can see that his right hand has dropped to the pommel of a small dagger. this whole thing is very uncomfortable for him, and you can tell by his body language that he finds this a little bit scary. But nonetheless, he nods.
And as the kind of going back a moment to just when the man pulls the candle out, because you made it a point that he opens the chest slowly, he reaches for the chest slowly, but I got the impression that he pulled the candle out quickly. And so in that moment when he does that, this quickly, Raylan's hand is on his sword and it's out of the scabbard this far. Just when he reaches for the candle, it's just there, just like this quick draw, like there, and then only when the tome is removed does the sword kind of shift back, and he does follow. And it's funny because as this happens, the creak of William's armor, just that this hulking man that he's sitting next to, is the audible manifestation of how Raylan feels as well. So it kind of breaks the tension,
Excellent. And you would have noticed that when you flicked that blade, those diamond eyes never left your faces. Stafflin looks down. He says, "The reason I am speaking to you, and you may not trust me, and I completely understand that, what with the way the world is these days. The reason I'm speaking to you is that, as I said, you appear to be cut from a different cloth. And if for any reason that I become separated from you, then," as he says so, a cry goes up from outside of the wagon. "We've got company!" And you hear Stafflin mutter, "That's right on schedule. If you'll excuse me, I would like to go and see what's happening outside."
Finish your thought, good sir. As Belshazzar stands to his feet, and no doubt the warriors amongst us are probably doing the same, brandishing their blades, he says, "It will be a moment before whoever they are is upon us, but finish your thought, good sir. We are to be separated."
I am not entirely sure I will be able to make you understand in the time that we have, but you are right to be suspicious. I've not entirely been upfront with you, but we don't have much time. I had hoped to make this entire journey without speaking to anyone, but circumstances have forced me into action. These eyes are not just for show. I know who is approaching, and I knew that they would be here. And now we must ready. You shall see for yourself. And with that, he hoiks the chest on that strap further over his shoulder, and he swings his full weight out of the wagon.
Marius would, I guess, not leap since there's no room, but nonetheless he would creak to the side of the wagon and jump out as quickly as he can. He wants to take in the situation as quickly as possible. And you can tell from how he moves that he's a military man, and when he comes outside he has a hand on a sword, and the way he looks, everything is very sharp.
And Raylan would come, like, not in a disrespectful way, but try to offer Belshazzar sort of like his arm to get out of the wagon. Like, and I don't know, how would Belshazzar respond to that?
So as you do so, you see Belshazzar has turned with his back facing the door, and you see a very small arachnid creature crawl into his hand, And for a moment, you see that he phases out for a moment, as if he's not even hearing you, as he's looking on the inside. And perhaps you see these multiple eyes just glow for a very, very quick moment, as my familiar comes out, and I see through his eyes, and I attempt to take in any clues that might be in this wagon. It's clear something is going down. If we get separated from this man, we need to know anything we can about him. So, using whatever skills of investigation he can, he's going to try to see if he can see any clues as to this person's identity in the wagon.
So you're looking around, and really, this thing is bare. All that's left are these stacks that were clearly makeshift seats. It does seem a little strange that that this convoy that's hauling, with tradesmen that are hauling stock and such, that a wagon would be entirely empty other than a couple of sand sacks. But nonetheless, there doesn't appear to be anything that would give you any clue about this individual other than what is on his person.
And I think with that, Belshazzar would shake his head for a moment, and he would take the help that Raylon has offered and hop out of the wagon. You'll notice that he is remarkably spry for an old man. In fact, as he hits the ground, it makes very little sound. In fact, almost, I imagine that there's some puddles on the ground. There's barely even a splash as he lands to his feet.
And Raylan does sort of hop out after, and then looks back at the dragonkin named William. And he kind of just glances over his shoulder and he says, "You coming?"
And at that point, Taxes has been just observing this whole thing the entire time, quietly, brooding sort of in the corner, just waiting.
I can feel it. That instinct's boiling in me.
And you can see like his hands immediately go to both sides of his hips. And you hear this like little clink as he stands up. And it's not just from the scale mail armor that is jingling as he stands, but his holsters for his hand axes as he flicks them around and
Out of my way. I can feel it boiling in me.
and he like immediately instinctively pushes himself, like propels himself out of this cart and almost animalistically like gets down in predator mode, like sliding out in this muddy pathway that people have crafted, just sort of like stalking and looking about. At this point, the hood, the snakeskin hood that has been on him the whole time, comes flinging off, and you can kind of see the elongated brass snout and this almost dreadlock-like hair that's just the tendrils from his scales.
And Taxes. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was going to say, as you are now all outside, something kind of alarming greets all of your vision. Many of the people in the convoy are looking back the way they came, back down the route of the cloud march that you've taken. There is the unmistakable glint of torches. A number of them, moving at some pace towards the very rear of this caravan. And you notice that Staflin is shoving his way to the back, appearing to want to be there, ready to meet them. He looks back and he says, "Now, you must all wait here. It is because of me that we're in this situation. I beg you, stay there. I'm going to go and see what they want."
Now, you don't have to beg. Hopefully you mean what you say. Because if you ask me to stay here, I'm not going to be brave. Do you mean it? Or are you one of those?
He gives you one last look. And he says, "What I say, I mean. That matter we discussed before, I advise one of you take it and keep it safe."
Fair enough. And if you do need help, you holler. Because these boys are looking to get pointed at something they can hurt. And he looks back, and with Taxes snarling on the ground, and William standing there, just this hulking brute, Raylan knows. He's like, these are fighting boys. These are the kind of guys you get behind in the line. You know what I mean?
Exactly, and it seems to occur to you that perhaps this might be why the four of you were chosen. And with a last look, he shifts the chest on his shoulder, and he begins walking towards the torchlight. And you can see that as he's walking back down the Cloud March, you see that though it is not yet dawn, there is a glinting, almost like sunlight, upon his armor, his pauldrons. And as he walks, the wind picks up a little bit, and something catches your periphery. All of you are only able to turn for a second before a mighty explosion erupts about the Cloud March. Something smashes into its side and debris is flung into the air. Fire envelops all of you. Dexterity saving throws, please. Go ahead and whack those in the chat.
Starting off strong.
Oh my goodness me! So, in fact, I think it'll be better just for the viewers if we can just say what our particular dexterity saving throws are.
I got a 7.
Marius is too intent on the view at the end of the Cloud March to realize what's happening, and he rolls a 2 as a dice fall out of his pocket.
That is a 4, which, based on my character's stats, that is actually a natural 1, so that is a critical failure, technically.
And finally, Chad.
I got a 16, so the dragon wins, like...
Okay, so this mighty eruption envelops the side of the bridge that all of you are standing on, and you are flung into the air. Taxes, the Dragonborn, is able to shift his body weight, but that's all he can do, and he manages to hit the side of the wagon that you were standing by, and sort of evade most of the explosion. The flames do not touch you, but the shockwave alone is enough to fling you from your feet. As you are all lifted into the air, you see that parts of the Cloud March, the section you're on, is collapsing into the abyss beneath you, sailing down into the void, never to be seen again. You are seeing the tradesmen, you are seeing the sellswords, and you are seeing the refugees, aflame, falling, dying. You land hard, and the wind is knocked out of you. You can see that you are not standing, you're landed on very, very small sections of this bridge that now remain. You see that there are a number of very narrow pathways of stone connecting the Cloud March, and you hear creaking and cracking. You are completely dazed and you cannot get up for at least a while. But tell me, how are you feeling after this horrendous ordeal?
I imagine as this shockwave and chaos and destruction hits, there's the storm brewing above us and the blue mountain in the background. And then all of a sudden, there's just this, and I imagine that the small elven form of Belshazzar is just tossed like a rag doll through the air. I imagine that a piece of the debris hits him on the side of the head and everything goes white for a second. And then all of a sudden he feels cold stone underneath him, and he's on like a 45-degree angle and just manages to grab it with one hand. You'll see anybody who might have landed near him or can see him will see in his other hand comes out what looks like a wand that's made of steel with a blue stone of lapis lazuli in the bottom. And you hear him call out, "Where are you? Who is still up? Where are you?"
Yet all you can hear is crumbling and screaming and the blazing inferno that is erupting around stone. You, with your abilities in mind, it does not take any check for you to know that this is not natural fire. None of you are able to stand. However, you can see across the gap that Stafflin himself was caught by the explosion. You can see that his armor is charred. You can see the side of his face is burnt away. This old man is struggling to his feet as those bearing those torches arrive in front of him. You see a number of armored soldier-looking types. Their armor glints in the starlight. It is silver. They wear helms that obscure their faces. They all look the same, uniformed, organized. And they're parting. Their ranks open as a tall individual steps from their numbers. Clad in close-fitting black armor and shrouded by a blood-red cloak. A cloak with a hood that wreathes a strange and terrifying-looking mask. It is black on one side, it is white on the other. On the white side, there is no eye hole, there is only one. And that one glows with a fierce yellow light. It scans the area like a laser. And you get that feeling, if anyone's ever got you with a laser pen, for example, that flare in your retina as it scans across the now ruptured bridge. You can see now this whole thing has been blasted apart, that vines and old scaffolding hang beneath it as a testament to the workmanship that went on here long ago, but it is now shattered. And this masked individual looks down upon Stafflin And he says, "Could it be? Yes. I'd know you anywhere. Stavlin. It has been a long time. I wonder, how have the ages kept you? The Lorekeepers are no more. What little there remains of them limp on in this broken world. You, Stavlin, were merely a humble steward. Why still play this pathetic charade?" And Stavlin looks up, his hand shaking, going towards his sword belt. And he mutters, "Well, Equinox. It has been a long time, but I guess old habits die hard." Moving quicker than is natural, Equinox reaches down with a gauntleted hand, and it closes around Stavlin's throat, and he is lifted into the air. Equinox's yellow eye flashes. No, they don't. And that yellow eye glows brighter and brighter and brighter, and as it does, Stavlin screams louder and louder and louder until it reaches fever pitch, and the old man hanging by his neck in front of you all disintegrates into yellow embers and is caught up into the high breeze that drifts around these mountains. Equinox gazes down at the wreckage, that yellow eye scanning once again, and he spots someone clinging there. An elf, maybe? He looks down to the chest that fell limply as Stavlin was utterly destroyed. And he kicks it open, sees that it's empty, looks to his silver guard, and says, "Kill them. Gentlemen, roll initiative."
Awesome. So, where did the book end up? Is it still in the wagon, or?
Well, none of you said that you picked it up, but if one of you thought that you had, then I'll allow it. It's entirely up to you.
I can go ahead and say, since I was the one thrown into the cart, maybe I had an opportunity to grab it.
I'd wait till initiative if you're going to do it now.
Well, okay, yeah, okay.
That's my thought.
No,
I mean,
that's good. No, that's good. That's actually really good. We can narrate that, and then we can move into, narration to combat. That'll be fine.
Absolutely, Chad. No, that's great thinking, though. Fantastic. Okay, so yeah, give me your initiative, guys.
Just trying to find what. Yeah. Sorry, I'm taking long. I just don't. That's the one thing I didn't remember about this fella.
That's okay, man. Okay, so we've got. Okay, so 4 of these individuals, these Silver Guard, step forth. They are armed with particularly vicious-looking halberds. As it seems that there is only 4 narrow, rocky pathways left over this void, over this vortex, which all 4 of you now hang. The wagon that you're nearby is teetering on the edge of one. and they approach, arching towards you. However, it is not them who act first. A certain elven wizard. What do you do?
Absolutely. So I just want to make sure that I have the battlefield clear in my mind. They're all coming towards us. Are they coming through like 4 different paths, or?
Yeah, so there appear to be 4 paths remaining. Each of you have landed on one. One has got the wagon, the other 3 are clear. And you're on one that is a slight angle as well, so yours is particularly hazardous, I will say. But yeah, 4 of them are approaching one each down these paths.
I see. Absolutely. So, if anybody in this chaos can see Belshazzar, he's looking bad. He's looking unhealthy. He's looking old, and the lines on his face are accentuated at this point. But he is evidently very wily for an old man, as he sees this person, our patron of not 5 minutes ago, disintegrated before his eyes. You see the metal wand in his hands flick effortlessly between his fingers as he, with a sweep of his arm, points it at the ground where the silver-armored man is coming towards him. And as he does so, you see what looks like sort of a silvery, bubbly energy shoot forward and stick to the ground, glistening in the rain as I cast grease underneath this dude's feet.
That's incredible. And as this individual is arching towards you, this grease just erupts across this very narrow, hazardous walkway. What's he got to make?
He's got to make a dexterity saving throw. My internet is acting really bad right now. I'm trying to look it up. I know it's a dexterity saving throw, and my save DC is 13. 13.
Okay, so he is going to try and make that. Let's see how he goes. Okay, so this first silver guard, valiant silver guard with his halberd in hand, is arching towards you, and his world is just upside down. He is topsy-turvy, and he is sailing into the void, never to be seen again.
Fantastic. And Belshazzar, for a moment, it's almost like Belshazzar can see as he slips off. You see a wry smile on his mouth for a moment. As, you know, for his movement, he reaches up and tries to scramble up and get better purchase and figure a way out of this.
Okay, that's excellent. And as you're clambering up, you notice that Raylan is now preparing to act.
Prone and sort of instinctively patting down what is seeping blood through this kind of leatherish armor. You see Raylan sort of pull aside the leather just for a moment to see this deeply packed wound that runs down from his entire chest down to his midsection. And you can see this is a wound that is on the mend, but fresh enough that it affects the way that things go. So that instinctively Raylan just packs the bandages in tighter to make sure and rubs some of the debris and other people's blood off of it, just, you know, kind of puts the leather armor back. Now, in relation to the wagon, if I didn't make the saving throw, if Taxes hits the wagon, you know, as I imagine it, like rocks. Where did Raylan end up in relation to Belshazzar and William?
So you are actually in the middle almost of this gap, this 60-foot gap between where the bridge is actually intact on either side, and you are sort of in the middle. You can see that there is the wagon on the pathway next to you, and that you can see that Belshazzar and Marius are on the far side. So you are the one that's closest to the wagon. other than taxes.
All right, so I take a deep breath, grit my teeth, and take a full move action, scuttling like Normandy Beach style into the wagon. Like I'm doing that Invasion D-Day style where it's like low, but you can just see me wince as I'm because this wound, and I try to get near taxes, and I don't know exactly what he's doing, if he's still smashed, whatever, but I'm thinking I know bad guys when I see him. And I don't know what's going on with this book, but I'm going to try to grab it. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to basically use a full move and try to jump into the wagon and sort of clutch this book.
Yeah, you do. And as you're running, you basically see that you have basically a narrow window to make this, as you see that this cart is creaking. It is creaking in the most terrifying nature. And as you dive in, you hear a thud as a crossbow bolt lands in the wood next to you. You land heavily into the wagon, and you feel its weight shift. And you see the book slowly sliding towards the other exit of the wagon.
And I, not looking behind me, I go, need a hand in here. I'd say that to taxes. I need a hand in here as I start to crawl with no decorum, scattering, scrawling, tumbling, skittering toward this book, and I'm just hoping that taxes can be of some help to me.
And at that point, taxes. I imagine we're gonna just go back a little bit because I imagine when he flew into the cart, when he got blasted into the cart, I was trying to determine whether he went under the cart or above it, and I want to say that like he hit the cart and rolled up over top of the roof. So now he's like either up on the roof of the cart or he's on the opposite side that the book is like teetering down towards, which is causing the extra weight to move that direction.
Yes.
So with that being said, what I would like to do is if I can, I imagine he's like clinging onto the side of this, and you can like when the curtain on the other side, Tim, opens up, you can see like the scale mail armor and these like dragon feet boots just like
You wanna tell me how I'm supposed to help you at the same time?
And then he at that point he just launches. I wanna say that like as he's leaning and looking over this way, just pure like survival instinct kicks in, and if he can find purchase on maybe a bit of stone or some sort of rubble that is near this cart, if he can find this, I want to push backwards and try to right the cart in the right direction.
Okay, and you brace yourself to do so, and as you're about to, we're going to go to Marius.
Okay.
As we're out of initiative. But Marius, you see this Dragonborn sort of scrambling on top. You see Raylan disappear into this canvas. And at the same time, you notice that the enemy is approaching. They are near you.
Yeah, I'll have landed on my back from the explosion, like winded badly, and I would, like, with grunts, push myself up, and I'll shrug the heavy sort of pack I have off and throw it so it lands on the good side of the chasm, and I'll just pull this hammer from my hip, and I'll look at the man approaching me, and I will say, "That's far enough. I would come no further." And then I'll look to the guy who was going for Raylan, and I will shout to him, "You! Face me!" And I will cast Compel Duel on him.
Oh, okay. What's he going to do?
He makes a Wisdom save.
Okay.
And his DC for that is a 13. A whopping 13.
Okay, and just to be sure, which one was it that you were telling to compel you to duel?
The one who was coming towards Raylan.
Oh yes, of course. Okay. So this silver-clad individual is menacing down this very narrow walkway, edging closer and closer, and then he stops. And he turns. And then, feverishly, as if possessed, he leaps, as if trying to make the jump between the two narrow pathways across the void. And he's going to make an athletics check to see if he can reach you. So the silver-clad man leaps, and his full weight hits the side of this thing. He hits it right in the chest, and then he sort of scrambles. His halberd is dropped, and he hangs for dear life at your feet, Marius.
The other one who was approaching, who was coming across towards me, I'll still have my hand up in his direction, like, halt, no further. And then I look at the guy at my feet, and I will look to him, and I will say, do you yield?
He looks up, and you can see that these helmets are very much made to make them look uniformed. They are, you know, they all look the same, and they look like a terrifying force of nature. But you can see just in the darkness of this visor that's sort of just a slit like that over his helmet, you can see the glint of fear. And as you say, do yield, his grip yields, and he just falls.
Amazing.
Yeah. And as he falls, a certain dragonborn is looking down and sees a silver-clad man fall into the mist, fall into the void. How are you going to handle this man?
Jeez. Okay then. So we've come to the position where I'm gonna try, like I said, I'm gonna try to right this cart so that both Raylan and I do not end up being that fate. So I don't know what you want me to roll. I'm assuming an athletics check. If you want me to roll anything.
Yeah,
Okay.
definitely it'll be an athletics check, because this is shit. This is going to be you trying to balance the weight of you going that way with your sheer strength. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Here we go, dude. I'm gonna let it ride. Okay, I'll take it. That's 18. So like that's with modifiers and everything. 18.
That's excellent, and you essentially just throw your entire weight into the top of the wagon, and it sort of shifts, and the book stops for an instant, and Raylan's hand on top of the tome. It's there. It's not slipping any further for now.
And I imagine, Rob, that like this happens where you see Tax's head come up over the other side of the cart now, and he looks down at Raylan.
Did you get the damn book? Hold on to that for dear life. I don't want to do that again.
And yeah, so as you're growling this, you hear something. You hear the axle of the wagon snap, and it goes thunk. Two of the wheels just roll freely and just drop, and you feel a different shift in weight. It's no longer leaning as if to topple sideways. It is sliding down that 45-degree angle, and it is just rumbling towards the edge. How do both of you escape?
So, going back to a minute ago when he said, "How am I supposed to help you?" Raylan would say, "Well, I'm betting you got a tail, don't you?" And as all this happens, and then the cart begins to slide, and I imagine that Raylan, clutching the book in one hand, is grabbing onto the horned, scaled, clawed foot and leg of Taxes, and he says, "I hope you copper lot can climb."
You're just lucky. I live up in the mountains.
And he like lifts himself up and like I imagine both of them now are like I fling him up with my tail, and now like we're both like Shanghai Knights, just like up on the top of this cart, like watching it go down.
So I would like both of you to make, if you're gonna jump, or then make the roll, guys. I want to know what you get.
I absolutely will jump at this point. Now that I've gotten my footing and Taxes has kind of helped me up, you'd see that Raylan sort of, he has this ease of access for the wound. He sort of pops that open, jams the book, and then sort of sticks it in some of the bandages that are wrapped around his belly. And so you could see sort of the blood seep through the bandages. He tucks it, and then he does he just jumps. He's looking for purchase on not the void. Okay, that's a little better.
Okay, and Chad, if you could make your roll as well, so I can describe it at the same time. Okay, so I don't know whether you guys have ever seen the hit motion picture vertical limit, but whenever they drop off anything, they jump like this. That is exactly what you both do. You jump like that, and you just grab onto the sides, holding yourselves there. And a quick glance to both of your rights now, you see that two individuals are still up, and they are basically ready to attack now, and it is their turn. The one silver guard that was so politely told to halt by Marius ignores his suggestion and swings that halberd down in a vicious and frighteningly fast manner. I have your AC. Is your shield up, Marius?
No, I had my hand out pointing, so I just have the hammer.
Okay, so 16. Okay, let's see. So this halberd just clips you on the shoulder, and it sends you spinning. And it does. Not too bad. That is 6 points of damage.
Okay.
And I want you to give me a check to see if you can maintain your footing, your feet.
Oh, Jesus. What kind of check? Dexterity?
Yeah.
That's going to be a whole lot of 7.
Okay, so you teeter, and you've almost caught your footing, and you fall backwards.
Shit.
The next one is not going to approach. He instead stares down at the elven wizard, and he takes a knife and he just launches it. AC 13, if I'm correct?
You're correct, yeah.
Okay. The knife slams into the stone an inch from your head, and it bounces off and clatters into the void. We are back to the top of the round, and it would seem that this one individual of your number has just disappeared. Down.
So, as all of this is going on, Belshazzar is trying to scramble up. Do you think that he would have seen Marius's form falling? Would I recognize that that's my friend?
Definitely. As
So-
you turn your head to see the knife hit, you see him go.
So, out of reflex, in a voice that doesn't sound like his own, he says, Razu! And points his wand in his direction as this swirling vortex of air appears around Marius as I cast Featherfall on him as he's falling as a reaction. And then as he's slowly falling down, he looks up just in time to see this dagger land right between his feet. And he says, we mean you no harm, ruffian. That fool with the diamond eyes was parading around the book. Is that what you want? We don't have it. It's right over there. And he points his wand at this lone column of stone. It's like a lone obelisk 30 feet away, just about like 2 or 3 feet in diameter. And lo and behold, right upon that stone is an open book that looks exactly like the book that we were shown. And as silence falls, you hear the fluttering of pages. Because I'm an illusionist wizard, I can do sight and sound on my minor illusion. And I put my hands up and start trying to crawl up slowly towards the wagon.
Okay, and as what save is he? Oh no, he doesn't. He has to go and investigate with an illusion, doesn't he? So he simply just turns to you, and he looks at the book, and then he looks to you, and he says, "By the 9 hells!" And he starts watching back the way he came to try and get to the book. You hear an outraged cry from the masked man at the back as to telling him, what is he doing? What is he doing? But this guy seems intent on getting to that book. Okay. We're back to Raylan.
Landing with a thud. Just like you said, just knees first, then belly, sliding, just eating dirt. Some good road rash from Cloud March. Some good Cloud March road rash. And so looking around now, so what I wanted to do, because I'm just kind of a super improvisational player, so I thought of this while we were talking. Is there any way that Raylan could be a shamed sort of previous member of a group like this? Are these the super bad guys, or would this be... I kind of imagine that the reason why he's coming to this particular part of the realm is because he's been, shipped off to Alaska. Like, you're on latrine duty in Alaska, Raylan. So I feel like I was going there for some menial military duty. And so is there any way to tie that in? Would I know these folks and what they're doing? Would I know about them, or are they an outer force?
You probably wouldn't know exactly what they are, but I think a military man like you can see that this is private. This is funded. This isn't this isn't like a royal army or anything. These are like high-paid mercenary-looking types almost, but they seem to have some kind of fanatical devotion to them. They all appear to be following orders without question, and so yeah, that's what you kind of get from them.
So talk me through this. How terrified would you be as a game master? Am I breaking the world and the plot if I were to take this book and purposefully flap it open to the center and cut it in half?
You can try.
Okay, the idea being that I'm going to try to give half to taxes because I don't know what this thing is, but I'm guessing that half of it is going to be less valuable to them than all of it. But I don't want it to be, are you sure?
Answer me this, Tim. Is Raylan going to open the book to cut it in half?
Absolutely. He was going to open it to the center. Like, I would imagine that he would almost drop it, like open it, drop it, and then do the, crunch, snip, crunch, snip, crunch, snip with the sword.
Okay, and I like to think, because okay, I'm going to say that you drop it, it falls open exactly in the middle, you raise your blade, and whoa, 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 wait, says the book.
And for the first time since he has owned it, Raylan drops his sword. Absolutely involuntarily. Just a gape. Just. And the sword clatters in the dust next to the book. Cling, cling, cling.
I think at that point, too, considering you and I are both standing next to each other, Taxes, not having even given his name to anyone, like, can you imagine how a cat feels when they get scared of an object in a room, right? Like, as soon as that book talks, he's okay with magic. He's okay with it. Like, he understands that because that's something normal in, like, Dragonborn realms. But the idea of a book talking and having a sentient voice, that freaks him out. So,
what the hell is that thing?
And you immediately see him, like, take both of his hand axes and just plunge them into the ground, and he's like in this like low formation of, I will burn it with my fire, I will rip it with my fists, I will do anything at all. Do not let that thing touch me.
And the book continues. It goes, wait, please, don't do anything, please. Oh my God, we'll talk later. We need to get out of here.
And so I would effectively say my turn would be over after opening it, dropping the sword, standing agape. I am going to play the rest of the turn as dumbfounded. Like, I'll just...
That's perfect. And this voice that is echoing from this book, it isn't quiet. Okay, it is shouting, it is screaming, it seems genuinely afraid. And we see now. No, we don't. We look down because slightly lower on the battlefield we have Marius, who is slowly floating down. And I'm going to allow you to try and grab hold of anything. You haven't gone far at all, so you can easily grab hold of the edge if you want. It's entirely up to you. What do you do?
Marius was certain of death. He caught a blow in the shoulder, spun around on this bridge, and he just began to fall. And he knows he's wearing armor. He was muttering prayers to the Father as he began to fall. And then he just starts to fall slowly. And he's like, what am I falling through? What? And he has time even to kind of make that realization where he's like, what? And he's falling slowly. And then he just takes his hammer and he spins it around his hand to the spiky end, and he just into the stone, hopefully, and just like uses that to wrench himself upwards.
That's incredible. Well, as you have Featherfall cast upon you, I'm going to say that you can just pull yourself up. It's literally like pulling yourself out of water, almost.
Yeah.
So you can spend your movement to get up, and you can face the individual who caught you in the shoulder, if you like.
Absolutely, yeah. I'm sure he's standing there looking pretty smug, you know, with his halberd out, and then he just sees like a mailed glove just like onto the top, and then another, and this huge form just pulls himself up. And then he'll just look, and he said, I told you to halt. And then he's going to try and in the head with the hammer.
That's amazing, and his eyes are just wide behind his helmet as you take a swing. Go for it.
Oh, baby. That's a 19 on the die, which I think will hit. It's plus 5. Okay.
Yeah, that connects, and we'll describe it once you've done your damage.
Yep, it's going to be 7 points of damage. And I'm going to smite him also. I'm going to use a first level spell slot to hit him with a bit of magic. So it's another 8. So 7 and 8 is 15.
Oh, okay. So the hammer... Well, actually, why don't you tell me exactly where you hit him and exactly how it sends him reeling into the abyss?
Yeah, so I pull myself up and I just stand in front of him and I say what I say. And then the hammer, I lift it up to swing, and as it kind of reaches the apex of the swing, it just bursts into flame. white flame, and I just swing it with all my force towards, and it catches him right under the jaw, and he just goes flying over the edge. And then I roll my shoulders and I reach for my shield and strap it on in case there are more.
That's amazing. Yeah, and he just reels into the air as you strike him. This flame still bursting from where you struck him, and he just disappears into the mist. As he shrieks to his death, it's Dragonborn time. What's Taxes doing?
Taxes is obviously in that prone, just freaked out position, but he's tired of hearing the book talk, and he just takes that claw and just slams it over the book and looks right at Raylan and says,
If you ever open this again in front of me, I won't be saving you from falling off that cliff.
And you hear a voice beneath your hand, and it says, "You do realize I don't have a mouth. That isn't really going to cut it, I'm afraid. But no, please don't throw me off a cliff. That's totally wasn't what I was going for."
And at that point, Taxes looks at the book.
Are you honestly being a little shit to me right now? Is this what is going on?
This is a conversation for another time, my friend. I trust that you are a rational being.
He doesn't even take 2 seconds. He finds a piece like some sort of leather pouching or some sort of leather adornment that is on his scale mail armor, and just shoves the book with force into it, wraps it around, lashes it like straight up woodsman style, like multiple lashes, just like there.
Now, if you're comfortable, can we please get a move on? All of this human crap starting to stress me out, and I don't like it. I get angry.
And you can see his nostrils flare and like little bits of smoke and stuff come puffing out.
Well, I will say that as Taxes has shifted this overly talkative book and strapped him to himself, you do notice that now a number of more of these silver-clad individuals are making their way across these narrow points in the bridge. You still have an attack if you want to take it.
I will, actually. So you see, like, the action that he takes, he lashes it, and he puts it pretty much behind his back so he can hide it behind his cloak, right? And at this point, he's just like, he's not even afraid. He grabs both of his hand axes.
Raylan, get behind me. This could get ugly.
And then he just straight up charges forward with both hand axes out. And I'm going to just assume that the nearest silver guard that is walking on these narrow bridges, I'm just going to nail the first person that comes within my vision.
And as you rush and say that, Raylan says, "Oh, not with the book, dummy!"
Amazing. Make your attack. Oh, I think you're muted, man.
You're muted, Chad.
21 to hit. So, with all of that, I'll roll for damage then too. Where's my? Which dice do I use? It's a D6. So that is, let's see, it's roll plus the modifier, right? If I remember correctly.
Plus your
For damage.
proficiency.
Proficiency's +2. Strength is +3 for the modifier.
Mm-hmm.
And so I rolled a 2, so it would be 2 plus. So 7 total, right? 7 total damage?
7 total damage? That's great. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. And as you collide into this silver guard, he is going to try and make a check to see if he can remain on it. No. he is basically hit once by you, and his leg just gives way, and he plummets, his blade flying into the air as he goes. And as he goes, you all hear the unmistakable cracking sound that begins to get louder and louder. It's crescendo, alarming you with every second. You can see hair-thin cracks creeping towards the far end of this gap that you are now on. All of you realize that you have a split second to move and get out of the way before all of this goes down. What do you do?
I move as quickly as possible. I just turn around. I just begin pumping, like hammer and shield. I've done plenty of jogging, wearing my armor before, and I'm just going to sprint as quickly as I can to get away from this impending doom.
Where would Raylan be in relation to Belshazzar?
So Belshazzar would be on your left, and he would be relatively close, actually, if not about just under 10 feet away.
Okay. And then, so essentially what I would do is, knowing that he's spry, knowing that he's quick, I would sort of gravitate probably toward him to see which path he was going to take, but I would be hoofing it as well, just full run if possible. But watching to see where is this man stepping, where is he looking, sort of borrowing his skill, like shadowing his steps.
Yeah, and as you do so, you'll see that Belshazzar is moving like, he's not moving like a blind man, he's moving like someone who's very aware of his surroundings. And as he does so, I imagine that what he's done is scrambled up this incline, and I imagine that there's like the sort of the arm of what used to be part of the railing on this, and without a moment to hesitate or think, he's just going to try to run up that towards the top of the bridge as quickly and as lightly as he can.
And finally, taxes. How are you evading impending doom?
So I imagine that taxes just bowled over this other gentleman, and he sees this horde of people kind of, a couple of soldiers in front of him, and if you can imagine like a running back charging through the front like a defensive line, like that's literally what he does. He gets down on his haunches, both blades in hand, and I have a feat on him called Horde Breaker. So I imagine like you just see him swinging both axes left and right, just cutting through the masses like he's swimming through it, and just bowling them over off the edges of this thing, making a pathway for his friends to kind of follow suit.
Yeah, so the way that you're actually going, most of them are approaching you, and it would seem that the safe bet is to go the other way. But I will say that as they are approaching you, I will absolutely allow you to take a few passing shots as you're making your escape. Absolutely.
Okay. So I was missing. I thought we were going towards the. We're going the opposite direction. Okay.
You're going the way that you were originally going to.
Okay.
Yeah, don't worry. Because if you go to the other side, they're likely to stab you.
Right. Okay. So you see that like I'm just booking it at full survival speed then at that point, and anybody who's trying to follow us at that point, I'm flinging my arms back and just wrecking them with like stiff arms of axes to the face and things like that.
Yeah, so as you are the last one to make a dash for it, they are basically scrambling, trying to follow their orders in a fanatic, desperate attempt to at least get one of you. And they're tripping over themselves, trying to grab hold of you. And your tail flicks away as the last hand just misses and closes down. And this one silver guard hits the deck, looks up, and he sees inches before him that crack. And all of it just gives way as this 60-foot gap just collapses now into nothingness, into the clouds, into the darkness. And as all four of you head as far away as you can from this collapsing nightmare, I'm going to ask a final dexterity check from each of you as the floor is giving way beneath you. I will say, Lloyd, Featherfall will still be active, so you can do yours with advantage.
Excellent.
Is it a check or a save?
Oh, it'll be a save. Sorry. Okay, so you are all dashing, and you see that this rubble is just collapsing. You see that there is safety ahead. Soon you're going to be on a sturdy bit of structure. But as the ground is giving way beneath you, and that yellow flashing eye is scanning as you are making your escape, I'm afraid, Balshanar, the ground gives way beneath you, and you fall. You fall. If anyone would like to make an attempt to help, now's the time to say.
Yes, immediately.
Okay.
I would hear him like, "Ah!" And I would skid to a halt and turn back and just like skid down onto my stomach and like reach a hand out to try and grab.
Amazing. Can you make a strength check, please, to try and hold him above the void?
Certainly hope so.
And I want to do the help action to try my best to hold Marius's feet as he's doing this. Not very strong, but I'm still using all my weight, pulling back, and I'm yelling back, and I'm like, Dragonborn!
And I think at that point you just see the three of us like doing like this chain of strength checks, just pulling up this way.
All right,
Okay.
so
Yeah, sure. All of you go for it in that case.
I rolled an 11, but I think essentially I don't need to roll. I just think Lloyd gets advantage on his roll.
He gets advantage. Yeah, absolutely.
18.
Oh, yeah. So basically, it's the last bit of rubble that is collapsing. And Balshanar just goes, "Hah!" And you, Marius, spin. You fling yourself onto your chest, and you just catch him. Raylan grabs one of your legs, and I'm guessing Taxes then grabs hold of Raylan as you skids. And once again, at a bit of an angle, you're hanging off this bridge. But
I
you're
see
all
him
safe.
and I'm holding his arm, and I see that he has this spider on his shoulder.
Oh my god.
And I just look, and Marius just goes, "Ah!"
You let go, you bastard.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
No, that's
and
okay.
then I realize what I've done, and I try and reach again, and hopefully I can still grab you, but it's just the immediate shock.
Well, as you let go, the spider makes a dancing attempt, and it lands upon your palm, I'm afraid, Marius. Balshanar falls, and Balshanar, I'm afraid you feel your stomach lurch as gravity drags you down, but you stop. You've hit some of the vines and the scaffold that hang beneath it. And you are just wrapped up, and you can hear them creaking.
Holy crap. So I imagine that Marius, you're looking down at your hand, and it almost looks like you've maybe taken some of this old man's skin off with him, but that doesn't matter because there's this little spider looking at you with 8 eyes, and they all focus on you. And then all of a sudden, in your head, you hear a voice with backwards reverb like a ghostly, ethereal voice that only you can hear that says, "You son of a bitch. There's vines down here, you bastard." As I cast message up so that only he can hear it.
Oh my god. Yeah, you totally hear that. Marius, how are you reacting?
Two worst fears combined. Terrifying sorcery and a spider combined at once. Marius lets out a shriek like a little girl, just a shriek, and he works hard to cultivate the appearance of being a very tough person, but he is not at the moment. He just and just like is trying to shake the spider off of his hand. He's just like freaking out. You holding on to him, right, and you would sense that he's like not even functioning at the moment. He's too afraid.
I would do the release, like the hands up, the hand check, like, whoa, 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 whoa. Whoa there, big fellow.
And Marius, I think the sheer reaction, the sheer mental training that has gone into your mind for your abject fear of spiders has got you on your feet immediately. You move that quickly, so instinctually. And as you do, your eyes dart up and you are suddenly back in the situation. A crossbow bolt bounces off the edge of the bridge. It seems that you are still in range of their ranged weapons, and it looks like that they're getting ready to shoot again.
And at this point, letting go of Marius, I think I would be propped up against and in the caress of Taxes at this point now. Since he was trying to hold me as I held Marius, I let go, and now I'm just leaned up against this reptilian pillar of a creature, sort of putting my weight on it.
The fact that you just said like we're cuddled up together kind of thing, I imagine it looks like the cover of a romance novel for a moment, where it's like dragon claw against his chest, and then Taxes realizes,
Oh God, what the hell am I doing? Get off of me!
And I think Raylan, and as you do that, he'd brush off and go, you know, for a fella that looks a lot like a dragon and tries to hide it, you dress an awful lot like a dragon. Looking at the reptilian cloak with the fangs and the snake skin, he sort of brushes it off.
So, whilst you are all having this conversation, Palshanar, your life is literally hanging in the balance. It seems that no one is actually going to be able to reach for you. You are too far under. You're hanging in this cradle of vines and broken bits of scaffolding, and you can see that people on the other side, these silver guards, are loading crossbows.
So, I imagine like a spider on a very I gotta do it, I'm sorry, Lloyd, I gotta do it. Like a spider on a very fragile web. He slowly moves, and his hand reaches out, and there's almost, if anybody was there to see them, there's almost like a shadow of his own hand moves out, this ethereal blue hand. It grabs one of these stray vines and shoots upward as I cast Mage Hand on one of these vines and start trying to raise it back up to the platform above me. And that'll go for 30 feet around. Oh, no, it disappears if it goes within 30 feet, so I guess I'm going to try to get 30 feet up with it and wrap it around something there.
I don't know. To be telling you the truth, you are going to be able to do that. It isn't 30 feet up, so you can do that, and someone will be able to grab it, so that's fine.
Okay, awesome. Awesome. So I imagine they don't even see as like this, like a cobra, like a snake, like a snake charmer head comes out with the vine, and you see this hand wrap it and try to tie it around something behind where you guys are.
That's amazing. And as you're all having this sort of exchange, you do see, this vine sort of just coming up over the edge.
Now, having regained my senses, I can see that there are people firing at us, and I'm worried about Balshanar being able to protect himself when he climbs. So I will walk to the edge, and I will take my shield and my hammer and just begin gong, smashing on the front of it, trying to make myself a target. Like, look at me! I felled 3 of you, sort of thing.
And Raylan is very confused because Belshazzar did not say that to him. I didn't know. I thought the old man was dead. I thought you just let go and that was it. Like I just met this guy an hour ago, and while I was a little bummed, there's a lot going on. So I'm confused as you're like, oh, and I'm like, the hell are you doing? And then I see Belshazzar sort of kind of like start creeping over, and immediately I kind of duck behind you, Marius, and sort of like start pulling Belshazzar up lowly.
Amazing. Okay, so you are gonna actually pull the vine up then?
Yeah, I'm doing the like sit, like under, and like sitting sort of with my legs, like this, just like hefting, trying to pull up the vine. Now that I realize what's going on.
Yeah, man. Give me athletics, as that's working a rope. Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, it's not so bad. We're not so bad. We're not in too bad of shape. Belshazzar, we're all right.
Yeah, that's absolutely fine. You're not dealing with a big person here. And you feel the weight, and you feel that strain on that wound, that horrible, deep wound.
Yeah.
But you start lifting him into the air, and it's not long before you can see the bandaged eyes of this individual appear, and it's sort of scrambling up, and all of a sudden, Belshazzar, you're on the edge. Now, all of you can run, but I'm afraid the last thing that I get to do is fire some crossbow bolts at Marius, who has made himself such a pristine target. So, one catches you on the shoulder, the same shoulder, and it does you for 4 points of damage.
Okay, no problem.
And it jolts you back, and it sort of pushes you back away from the edge. And once again, just in the darkness, you can see through the dust and the clouds that are now sort of forming between this now gap between the two parts of the bridge. You just see that yellow eye scanning over you all.
Yeah, I can imagine that we all just begin to kind of like skid and run, like just trying to get away from here as quickly as possible. With like Marius at the back, just maybe lifting his shield as we flee, and just like just like crossbow bolts smacking into the stonework around us, and we're hightailing it out of there.
And as all 4 of you are sprinting away into the darkness, you hear a cry of fury. And that is where we're going to take a brief moment to do some introductions. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, orcs and goblins. My name is Rob. You are on the channel Performance Check. Thank you for joining me. And I have some absolutely amazing players. How awesome were they there, guys? I mean, seriously, that was some really good stuff there. Some really good classic swashbuckling action there. I would like you guys to introduce yourselves. So, if we can begin with Chad, first of all, please.
All right, hi guys. My name is Chad Nick. I actually have a channel on YouTube called Chad Nick. I'm working on trying to get it adjusted, but I do a game blog called gastrogamer.wordpress.com. It is a game blog where I do reviews and talk about D&D and some pretty cool stuff. In terms of accessibility for disabled individuals. So I try to, I'm trying to incorporate learning how we can do, that kind of stuff.
That's great, and I'm sorry, Tim, you're a demon in that chat. Moving from Chad then, Lloyd.
Hello, I'm Lloyd. I run the channel Jarl DM. I have a website, jarldm.com. And I run a lot of Viking games. I run some Game of Thrones stuff. Will be on there pretty soon. So yeah, lots of D&D.
Amazing, thank you. And Lorekeepers, my man.
What's going on, everybody? My name is Lorekeepers, and man, thank you for having us on We all had high hopes, and it's been amazing so far, man. That whole sequence was just like a cinematic, descriptive roller coaster. It was so awesome, man. On the edge of my seat the whole time, so it was great. I have a channel, Lorekeepers Planetoid, where I do D&D videos, and my band is called Planetoid. You can find us on the YouTube too. Hell yeah.
Amazing. And last but certainly not least, Tim.
Hey guys, I am Tim. I am half of the channel Tabletop Terrors. I am so glad to be in this game. It's just got a feel of its own, and I really love how well the characters are all gelling together. And we didn't plan it necessarily like that. It's just we all kind of showed up with who we wanted to play, and it's just been awesome. So I'm loving the game. Be sure, if you stumble upon this video, subscribe to all of these channels, especially Performance Check, because Rob's videos are sick, and you don't want to miss it when he comes out with a critical conversation or one of his tips videos, and more of these games. So, and special thanks to Jarl DM for making these overlays, these sick overlays. He spent the time doing that, so rock on. So, love you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Big shout out for the overlays. Unfortunately, we did have some technical difficulties. Bless Chad. But we will definitely. He's tried. He can't help it. He will definitely work out something for the next time, though. Absolutely. So we can all be unified in our wonderful glowiness. And perhaps now you understand why I chose a book for my symbol. Now, shall we get back in for a little bit? Okay, so the Clown March it's about a mile long, but that mile goes really quickly, considering the encounter that you have just barely scraped your way out of. Absolutely. And it isn't long before you feel your breath getting heavy from the running. And at long last, you see that the Cloud March finally ends, and it meets this cliff face, this overhanging cliff face of an ancient mountain that has been there since before time began. Even maybe not. That's maybe an exaggeration, but it's a really old cliff, and it's
That's some honest DMing right there, and I love it.
Oh man. And you see that there are these vast pillars that you think might have been a gate at one point. However, there is no gate there, but you can see areas where there may have been hinges, for example. But the wind, the rain, the elements have basically just molded these pillars into smooth obelisks almost that flank either side of the exit of this bridge. And you see that there is a pathway that sort of descends into a narrow pass between two other cliff faces, essentially. A very, very narrow path.
And as we approach, I imagine that, we've probably been running at first and then jogging our way down the edge of this long bridge. And when we come to the end, you will hear the elven wizard panting, hold up. And you'll see that his head is cloaked, and as he pulls back his cloak, you'll see that he looks worse than you've ever seen before. It's literally as if his flesh is melting off of him. And he wipes his hand, and it seems like a little bit comes off, and he just shakes his head. He pulls out his wand, and you see a small ripple of energy around his neck, sort of like a heat mirage. And as it pulls up, it's almost like he's pulling his head out of an invisible sweater. And the color of his skin completely changes from the beige of a high elf to the unmistakable dark gray with a distinctly bluish cast of a dark elf. And he says, "My friends, I apologize. I have not been completely honest with you. My name is not Belshazzar. My name is William.
Oh my god. Can I just say something before you continue?
Yeah, go ahead, man.
So, as you're saying this and as your companions look on, there is a rumbling. For did I not say that a raindrop, while insignificant, can make an impact on the world? And the rain begins to get heavier. And as the rain is falling upon this individual's face, you see these lines as what appears to be wax, almost porcelain-colored makeup is leaking from his face in lines, giving him this terrifying visage.
And when he makes the William comment, even in spite of this horrific, unnatural sight, Raylan laughs. He laughs like that is. You're full of surprises, old man.
Yes, I am an old man, but not as old as perhaps I led you to be believed. But you must understand, it's much easier for a high elf to get around without racism, you know. I apologize for deceiving you. It makes things go a lot more smoothly, but it seems at this point we are all in this together, so... My name is not William. My name is Azalax. It is a pleasure to meet you.
I can imagine we've been running, and like bent over with like hands on my knees, like, and then I just let it just like, and it's just like all this tension that's built up. I guess it's just like released, and everyone just begins like laughing like maniacs.
Even is like.
Shit. If I could hide myself as best as you did, hell, I wouldn't have even needed to leave.
We can work on it, my friend. I'm sure we can come up with something for you.
As the rain begins to get heavier and heavier, it begins to dawn on you all that it might be best for you to take shelter. Ice is seemingly falling from the mountains that flank your path, and parts of it are shattering. You see that it might not cause you any damage, but if this storm gets any worse, then perhaps it will.
And as the rain turns to ice, you hear, we're laughing, we're like, and Taxes says that, and so on. And I have to sort of yell because the rain has gotten so loud that I go, well, I suppose now's a good time to let y'all know that my name is Ezekiel Raylan, and there's a chance that I have killed, incarcerated, or beaten some of your kin. If that's an issue, we need to square it away now. And you would know, maybe, like not Snowflakey, but Ezekiel Raylan is sort of he was a very prominent martial bounty hunter, known as like a quick draw, like a Doc Holliday type, but he disappeared for a while. And so the idea is that there is a good chance that he did do some of those things to your kin, so I'm just kind of throwing it out there. And you guys can role play it however you want.
I'll raise an eyebrow to that, knowing that it wasn't my kin who were rich and powerful. Nor have I seen them in a long time, so I wouldn't be aware if they had been. But I'll raise an eyebrow to your releasing of your identity and how forthcoming you've been. Well, I'm going to scratch the back of his head. My name is not William either. I know that's a shock to most of you. Marius Hexenheim. Now you, Dark Elf Wizard, you embody many of the things that I was taught to hate and fear. It makes it very difficult for me to trust you and to when you were an elf, it was and he's like having trouble getting the words out. It was easier when you were an elf, but now I used to be a witch hunter.
Well, I would like all of you to do a. I'm just trying to think what it would be. It would be either a history. Yeah, history, I'd say. A history check.
I got a 23 on my history.
Dude. There you go.
Sorry, I lied. 22. 22.
Okay. Yeah, so all of you have done pretty well, and the name Witch Hunter, it conjures the image of something that you have all known for a long time. Since the Nine Kingdoms were forged, there has been an organization that is one of the three pillars of the Seneschal's society. One of these is known as the Magisterium, which is an order that is in place to control and monitor arcane matters of all kinds. And the witch hunters are a fairly new element to this order, the last 50 years maybe, because they've become more and more militant in the ways that they go about controlling those who are arcane inclined, shall we say.
Yeah, when he drops that bomb, you can tell Marius is expecting some sort of backlash. So he stands there somewhat sheepishly.
And Rob, in relation to the lore of the world, I would think that I would understand and respect, a hunter, a man who gets other men, for whatever it is, men, women, whatever it is, for witchcraft, whatever, although it's not something I did. But what would I know about that organization, even if I was sort of perhaps outside of it?
The Magisterium itself, would you know about them?
The Magisterium, and essentially how you said that they've become more militant, would that be something that I'm kind of aware of, these witch hunters, even though they're relatively recent? I would imagine as a bounty hunter, you would sort of know the competition, good or bad, even if it was, amenable. If we're both looking for the same quarry, that means less money in my pocket, but I understand their calling, quote unquote. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does, absolutely. And yeah, absolutely, you feel this respect, but at the same time, you are increasingly aware that the witch hunters probably would have been your main source of competition if your bounty had been, say, an apostate, an arcane user that needed to be brought in, for example. The witch hunters are obviously on the payroll, but the bounty hunters could also, get in on that action and be paid by the magisterium for such people. So absolutely, this man stands as your competition, as it were.
And so I would extend a hand, and I'd say, good to meet you.
And he let out a sigh of relief that there was no immediate attack, and he would grab the hand and shake it vigorously.
Yep, and Raylan would sort of, he would know this sigh. This might not even be the first witch hunter that he's had to converse with, and he would even probably make a comment like, ain't no shame in a man working, ain't no shame in how you earn your gold as long as it's honest to you. There's no judgment here.
When I was on the bridge, about to fall, I saw in your eyes you're not an evil man. You say you were a witch hunter. What are you now?
I'm running.
Yes. Well, me too, so I suppose we put aside our differences and figure out which way to go from here.
I agree.
And for a while this whole conversation is going on, you can kind of see that Taxes, even in the jubilation that they were having, stops for a minute and just observes this kind of odd quarry of individuals that he has now placed himself with. And he grunts.
If we're all being honest here, I suppose I should tell you my name finally. I don't really know it. That's why I can't give it out. But, last I recall, I go by Taxes now. So, if you need anything of me, I suppose I'm willing, as long as you're willing to pay your taxes.
And as Taxis grunts this, the rain and the ice falling is getting harder and harder, and you're all suddenly very aware that you are starting to shiver a little bit. It is not pleasant weather right now.
Okay, so Rob, I'm gonna say this then. Having Taxes kind of having lived a life of solitude and been alone for a very long time, he has learned the resilience of survival out in the wilds, out in the open. And so as they're getting pelted over and over again by this rain, you can see that like the water is starting to the water and the mud around their feet on this trail is now starting to get thicker and thicker.
He said, all right, before it gets too wet for us to traverse, I think it's a good idea if all of you decide to follow me.
And he kind of like just straightens his shoulders up and backs up. And then I'm going to roll a survival check. That's cool. So we'll go ahead and see what I can see.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Go ahead.
Situation. Okay. All right, cool. That's a nat 20. So plus my +4 from survival, so 24.
So you take a moment, and I like to imagine that the vapors exuding from your nostrils for a moment just go as you take one large sniff. You close your eyes, and then your reptilian eyes open sideways as they do. And you see, clear as day, as if lit before you, the most ideal path to not only begin traversing through this very narrow kind of passageway through the mountains. You also see good places where you can take cover, where most of the weather will be kept off you. And as you begin moving, you see before you, in the not too distant path ahead of you, you see that there are a number of catacombs and caves that may make ideal shelter.
And I think as far as what you were describing, I completely agree. I think that's exactly what happens. But I think at the same time, because the last thing he remembers is waking up. The last thing he remembers is waking up in a cave, like in that. We talked about it, and we woke up, and it was in this sort of domed inner structure. And that moment that he felt, he's kind of shocked because he doesn't know what this sense is. Like, he takes it in and he knows his dragonborn senses, and he knows those are normal instincts. But it's the first time since he's woken up that those instincts have kicked in. And it's almost like this shock to his system. So many things are enveloping in his brain.
To the right, there's a cave about halfway up. We can shelter there. Or we can keep going. There's another one higher up on the hill. Your choice.
And as you're saying this, since the first time that everyone saw taxes, I will have to make this clear. So, none of you have ever seen a Dragonborn before. It's kind of jarring. And only now that you're outside of this stressful situation are you able to look at this creature, this individual, and he's sort of pacing off, prowling ahead, following his nose. There's an animalistic tendency to the way he operates. And I don't think it unnerves you, but it's strange because you've never seen this before. So I don't know how that you want to take that on board. But then again, maybe none of you have ever seen a drow before either. So it's all, how you want to put it in perspective-wise.
For Marius, I would say that he's in survival mode and that he's seen a lot of things in the past 20 minutes that he never expected to see. A dude with lasers for eyes, a talking book, massive explosions and stuff. So I think he's like, oh, these guys aren't trying to hurt me. And this guy seems to know where we're going, so I'm just going to roll with it, and I can process this later, once we're safe. So I think he's just in survival mode.
Amazing. So what are the rest of you guys doing then? Are you following taxes? Are you hesitant?
I think it would be the first time that Raylan would actually fear him. Seeing the sight, I mean, it's one thing, like you said, in the midst of everything and sort of in the dark in this, traveling scenario where there's some distance. And then after the heat of everything, I mean, this is a creature that, conceivably is a predator to me. This is not far removed, in my eyes, from a larger dragon. So I think there's definitely just kind of that realization of, this is a creature. This thing could probably kill me. And so, but then sort of realizing the warmth in Tax's eyes, the meter and rhythm in his voice, his actions so far, I sort of, I'm like, okay. But I definitely get behind my man Marius.
And I think that Azarax would be at the back, following behind, I think using his ears more than his eyes, because his eyes are facing backwards towards the bridge, towards where this individual known as Equinox, able to disintegrate a man with a stare, where him and the silver-clad men are coming from, to see if he can see if they are giving chase.
And as you look, although above ground your eyes are still incredibly sharp, considering it's still dark, but through the rain and the sleet and the clouds and the mist, all you can see is darkness and shifting white vapors.
And not knowing anything about a woodsman, but being an expert at surviving and staying under the radar, I think again his hand, as we're walking backwards, his hand will shift and another hand will come out of it as he scrapes it across the ground, trying to cover our tracks.
And as you do that, Azarax, Tax is, he's focused. He's laser focused on getting to this cave for you guys, keeping you guys safe. But there's this odd sensation that he has. You're a dark elf. You're something that, in his terms, he's the last of his kind, and he's never seen somebody like you in the longest time. So maybe he thinks you're the last of yours. And there's some sort of a bonding brotherhood moment where he's like, I'm going to keep you at arm's length just like you're going to keep me at arm's length, but I respect you because of the fact that you're doing this, and I would do the same thing too if I wasn't so focused on what I'm doing.
Yeah, absolutely. That's amazing, and I think maybe Azarax may even notice that glance, perhaps. I don't know. What do you say, Chris?
I think so, absolutely, and I think that there would be sort of it would be a very almost imperceptible gesture, but I think he would just kind of nod his head down to the side in recognition.
Marius, at the meantime, watching this hand smush the tracks behind, like almost mechanically, like muscle memory, is like watching what kind of tracks the hand leaves. Thinking, well, if I have to hunt this guy someday, it's just like mechanically in his head, and then he finds himself doing it, and he tries to shake it away, but he can't. It's just like muscle memory to him.
This is one thing I forgot to say. I had meant to say, Locris, take a point of inspiration for your genius utilization of Mage Hand to cover your tracks. Lloyd, also take a point of inspiration for you analyzing those tracks in case you ever have to hunt him, because that is so your character. Excellent stuff. So, you guys are following taxes, and it isn't long before you have now found shelter. Was I right in thinking that you were going for one of those caves then, Chad?
Yeah. So essentially, he's like, get out of the muck, get out of the mire, get to some place that has shelter, and the nearest available overhang or cave face that we can actually get to that's not going to be completely drenched in rain, I want to get there.
Okay, great. And as you do so, it's a bit of a climb. Not something that would be worth me asking you to make a check for or anything, but you are all having to exert yourself a bit to get to this shelter. But it seems kind of defensible. It seems quite well enclosed. It appears to be a small cave that has just been buffeted out the side of this cliff face by the elements. Inside, you notice that there's no ice, and it seems relatively dry. And I would like all of you to do a perception check, please, just in case you spot something else about this location.
Nope.
Okay, so, oh wow. Was that natural, Chad? Or was that modified? Modified. Okay.
I rolled a 16, and then I have a +4 to perception. So.
Okay, so Marius and Taxes, you guys, your vision at this point is a bit keener. Perhaps Raylan and Azarax are more focused on getting dry, for example. But you guys notice that as you're climbing up, you see that from your vantage point in this hole in the cave, a little about 10 feet off where you were before, you see glinting a lot of different torches far down, sort of off the mountain you guess you're on at the moment. It is the unmistakable site of a settlement, quite a sizable settlement in the mountains. You can't really make out what it looks like, but you know that there's something in the distance. But perhaps too far away to travel to immediately, but there's something there.
I would see Taxes looking out over the horizon, and I would say, looks like a town. I would say that's a bad place to go with these people hunting us. This seems safer.
For now, but eventually, we're gonna have to find a way to at least get people on our side, away from those things. Whatever those silver men are, hear my words now. They're only men, and men can be changed in a matter of seconds.
That point of inspiration. That was amazing. So, yeah, all of you kind of have the ringing sort of memory in your minds. Stafflin's last words to you. He told you that he needed you to get to freedom's salvation. And he told you that you needed to find an individual known as Weaver. If you intend to do so, then perhaps it might be a good place to start. However, as you all, I'm guessing, are you going to bed down? Are you going to take watch? What are you guys doing? Do you feel like sleeping at all at this point?
Well, I think Raylan would, now that everything's sort of settled as it can be, would bring up. Now, I don't want to sound odd, but Taxes the Dragonborn is currently in the possession of a talking book. And we have not discussed this as a group thus far. I think it's probably a good time to do that. Taxes, why don't you show them that book of yours?
And almost irritated, like, did you just ask me to do this? I thought we went through this before. He like grunts from the opening of the cave and turns back around.
All right. Well, I guess it's about as good a time as any.
And he whips out the book from the satchel on his back, and he actually looks at the book, and it's weird because even though he's been talking crap about this book the entire time, he like,
If you're soaking wet, if you're sweated on, whatever the hell I did to you, I'm sorry in advance.
and he like throws it down.
And Raylan sort of tries to like put his hands out like, may I?
And he'll hand the book to you.
And so I would turn to Marius and Azarax and I would say, now brace yourselves because I wasn't being figurative. And I would open the book and drop it in front of me, and in front of Marius, and in front of Azarax.
And as you do, it falls open, and there's no sound.
I think in much the same way as in the wagon when all of the warriors, when their hands went to their sword hilts, the wand is in Azarax's hand immediately, and almost like Harry Potter style, he's ready to gesture. And he turns to Raylan and he says, You mean the book is a talking book? You
And
mean the
Raylan,
book that we have been given from a cryptic messenger, told to keep safe, to bring to some place we don't know anything about?
You know, it's really impolite to speak about me when I'm right here, guys. I mean, seriously, I know that I owe you guys a lot, but end of the day, not very thoughtful is all I'm saying.
By the father! I'll scream and I stand up and jump back away from this thing.
Look, I'm sorry. I mean you no harm, okay? Look, I don't have the spine to take you guys on. See, I can joke too, right? Book spine, get it?
And Tax is kind of like half chuckles at that, and he's like,
And here I was about to stab you again.
Look, I know this is all very confusing and you guys probably aren't used to one such as, me, but I'm really, really uncomfortable with the idea of you guys stabbing me. If we could just put that on the back burner for just a moment. Just a moment. That'd be great.
Taxes then looks at the book and says,
All right, fine. You have the following next 2 minutes to explain to me why the hell I shouldn't rip you up. If you can do that, I may not throw you out in that water.
Well, if I've only got 2 minutes, then I suppose the best reason why you won't want to throw me out into the rain and into the water is that, as Stafflin quite rightly said, that if you don't trust him, you may as well trust a reward. I mean, I assure you, if you get me to the right place, you won't have to work again. Not that I'm saying that you're really a working dragonborn anyway. I'm not saying that you're not, employable. I'm sure you are. But the fact of the matter is that if you get me to the right place at the right time to the right person, you will find a treasure and legacy beyond your wildest dreams. How does that sound?
Marius is muttering prayers to himself.
Azarax's his wand has come out, and he's leaning over the book, and he's sort of looking around, trying to see where the sound is coming from. And as he does so, he draws a circle in the dirt around the book, and he says, "Well, you have my attention, but what sort of reward are we talking about? I say we give him 2 more minutes."
Look, I can't do this all night. I mean, I know that you guys have done most of the legwork, but really, this is using up quite a lot of my concentration, as you can see, and the pages flick all of a sudden on their own, and you guys, I'm guessing, almost leap with fear as this book suddenly moves without you even touching it. Its pages flicker, and you are actually surprised to see that all of the pages are entirely blank. But you do see black kind of strange smudges across some of the pages, as if there was ink on them before once. But to answer Azarak's question, there doesn't appear to be any particular place this sound is coming from, other than it's coming from inside this book.
And Raylan leans over and he's having a little conference here with Azarax. He says, "It is not my intention to be racist. But from what I understand, this is a specialty of yours and your kind, this magic. Now, having said that, I will say that I have spoken with quite a lot of men who I have had a sword at their throat. Most of them said these exact kinds of things. So, if this book did really believe that it was in any kind of danger, it absolutely would tell us all of these things. So, perhaps we work together. If you can adjust and see if there's any kind of magic, I can find out if this book is lying." How does that sound?
I could not have said it better myself. This is a wonderful idea. As he continues to inscribe these magical circles and ritually cast detect magic on the book, he will continue the conversation. He'll say, "Perhaps if you want to judge whether or not the book is lying to you, we should ask you some questions. So, first things first, Mr. Book, what is your name?"
Well, I am really glad that you asked. I am known as the Grimoire, but I think that's a bit foreboding, don't you? I prefer Grim.
You're a grimoire, but it looks to me as if the spells that were once inscribed inside of you have been taken away.
Alas, I'm afraid I am now somewhat empty, and with that, much of my memory. It's a peculiar feeling. I feel that there's an awful lot to me, but I'm afraid there's only so much I can tell you about myself. I have pondered long on this journey, and I've only managed to come up with a few things myself.
And as he says this, you see Taxes go from that defensiveness stance that he is just like, I don't want anything to do with this book, to now he is like a drawn-in child, like,
You feel the same way. I've been dealing with that same problem for months now. Day after day, end on end, not being able to know who the hell you are. So, Grim, if that's what you gotta deal with, I don't care how much you talk. As long as I don't have to hear it, consider yourself unstabbed.
Thanks, he says uncertainly, and he sort of takes a pause, and then he says, "I think I caught your name. It was taxes. Taxes. I'm sorry that you're going through this too, and I can imagine it's very difficult. I don't have an awful lot of my memories, but I do remember the Dragonborn. And I remember that you are a mighty people, and I have the utmost respect for you. And all of you," he addresses all of you. "I don't intend to deceive you, I promise you. I just need to get to where I was supposedly being sent to by my steward, Stafflin."
Silence, witch thing. I've heard enough out of you. Who is your master? Who created you?
Well, I think it was an individual named Weaver. I think. But what I do know is that he was a Lorekeeper.
I don't trust this book, I'll say to them. Give me a moment. And then I'll kneel and I'll close my eyes. And I'll use my divine sense to see if this is a fiend or an undead. Because that's what I'm assuming. It's the only thing it could be, obviously, because all magic is pretty shady in Marius' eyes. So he just sits there and kneels. He tries to sense if it's celestial or fiendish. No, undead or fiendish.
Okay, and it's almost like you're opening a door. You close your eyes and a deep breath, and you reach out in your mind to detect if this book is indeed a fiendish creation or something that echoes from the hollow laughter of the undead. Neither meet your ears, neither meet your mind. However, a door opened one way can be stepped through another. And you see and you feel a power that is completely unfamiliar to you. It is vast. It is changing. You see a time long ago, and you hear songs and stories. All of this is a whirlwind of information, and all you can do to stop it is to just snap out of your attempt to read this thing, to stop it.
Yeah, I guess Marius would open his eyes and you would see that they have rolled back in his skull. And he's almost shaking, like hands gripping his thighs, like shaking. And then finally he like snaps and his eyes come back and he lets go. He's breathing heavily. I want... No, nothing to do with this. This is for you to deal with, wizard.
I'm so sorry. Look, I wish you would have told me that you were going to do that. You can't just step into the telling without knowing what it is.
What is this telling you speak of?
Why, it's a force of nature. It is the source of a Lorekeeper's power.
If we get you to this Weaver, presumably it's right over the other hill over there. But if we get you to him, will he be able to give us more answers than you do?
Almost certainly. I know that he is in some way involved in my creation, and I know he is a Lorekeeper. He, of all people, should know the law surrounding me, will he not?
What is this Lorekeeper you keep speaking of? That Equinox creature mentioned it also.
Well, from what I do remember, the Lorekeepers were an order that based their power from the legends that go before them, but also those that they forge themselves. And they harness this power through the telling. Surely you know of worship of the gods and the devotion to magic. Well, that creates a power. So do stories.
As Azarax would turn to Raylan, and he would say, "What the book says, it makes sense, no?"
It does. Makes a lot of sense. I'm not saying I believe all of it, but I guess the question we got to ask ourselves right now is it worth the cost of our lives? Because there's not many quarry I've walked away from, but there's not many that would cost me this much to deliver either. And I never did tell that man I would take the job. I never made an agreement. I never shook his hand. So we've got a couple of choices here. I'm just as well leave this book lying in this cave. But I'm with you lot now, and we're in this together. So, the way I was raised, we put it to a vote. If it's all right with you, I'll vote last.
I will vote first. It seems to me that it is quite a conundrum, no? But still, we must look at our options, like you say. On one hand, we have this book, this power, trying to bring it to someone who we do not know, at the behest of a man who we had only just met. But Stafflin, the man with the diamond eyes, did not seem like an evil man to me. I am not the best judge of character, but he did not seem bad. He did seem desperate. On the other side of the chasm, we have Equinox. I do not know who that is, do not know who he works for. But a man who is willing to disintegrate another man with a gaze, who commands such power, for us to leave this book here, it's almost the same as handing it to him. So my vote, we bring this to Freedom Salvation. We bring this to the Weaver. We see what he has to say. And we ask him to sweeten the pot a little bit, because this is a dangerous fucking mission.
I agree. Generally speaking, I would sooner meet this Weaver and take an estimation of him, see what he's like, or what she is like, whatever this Weaver is like. Once we ascertain if he is, as you say, good or evil, trustworthy or treacherous, we can decide to keep the book or give it to him. But leaving it here, that thing that killed all those people, it cannot have the book.
Well, I think you and I, Book, we share the same fate somehow. Maybe if you find more answers, I'll find more answers. And then I won't have to be ashamed to hide my face in front of.
And he snarls a little bit, like instinctively, just snarling a little bit.
Humans, like a second-rate citizen.
Well, you lot are the most trustworthy folk that I've met. in a long time. I can rightly say that I agree, and I'm not a greedy man, but I need to eat. So, as long as we split this treasure fairly, I'm in. Is that agreed? Does anyone have a quarrel with that?
Sounds good to me.
Just 'cause I'm a dragon doesn't mean I need a horde, boy. You're fine by me.
The duty itself is plenty of reward. Keeping this book out of the hands of that thing pays for itself.
Fair enough. Split 4 ways. Even. I'll do my fair share. And I won't let you down. So, what do we do next?
How about get drunk? I say, as I take this little bottle, a really little bottle, from my pack. It's all I've got left, but it's fucking freezing, splashing rain. Seems like a good time for it.
Raylan is disappointed at how little it is.
I get that a lot. And he'll pull the stopper out, and he'll drink a little bit, and then he'll hand it to you.
Raylan is genuinely surprised and honored at this small little bottle of what I imagine is probably moonshine that Marius has made himself with field rations and things like that. This beef-flavored moonshine. But it's definitely an honor, and were Raylan to have a hat, he would tip it and sip just a little, and he would give Marius sort of the glance of, should I pass this along?
Certainly.
And so Azarax would be closest, and so I would hand it to Azarax gingerly.
And Azarax will take it as he continues to inscribe more and more detailed symbols and an additional circle around it. He just sort of lackadaisically takes a swig off of it, and then all of a sudden he's, oh my God, are you trying to poison me? What the, God, God, how can you drink that shit? And then he passes it off to Taxes.
And Taxes takes the bottle and he looks at Azarax and just shakes his head for a minute.
You weak little bodied people.
And then he just takes it, downs a huge shot, but like animalistic. Can you, if you can picture like Beast from Beauty and the Beast, where how he's lapping it up and like.
Not bad. Could use a little more bite, though.
That's incredible. Sorry, carry on.
Oh, no, you're good. And then he just passes it back to Marius. And then I assume that, just in the chain of events, there's, a maybe dropper-size goblet of stuff left in the bottle. You could barely get a sip off the end of it.
I like to think that there was this moment of camaraderie, this sharing of a drink, which ends with this animalistic, lavish, over-the-top behavior, downing all of this moonshine or whatever it is, and there is a beat where it is just silent. And I think for the rest of the night, you guys can take a rest, you can get your wits together, and we shall return to this party once we've had a short break, if you guys like that.
Perfect.
Okay, just one thing. Do we know how long we've been going? Because I have literally no idea.
I can check for you real quick. I have the actual game running on the other one, so I can keep track of the YouTube chat. And so.
I think it's been 2.5 hours, maybe. I think.
Okay, so we've got about an hour. If that's okay, Lokeris, is that okay?
If we could keep it down more like a half hour, that'd be awesome.
Okay,
If
in that
that's
case then,
possible,
do
that
you
would be
want to
great.
press on then instead of us breaking in that case then?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Okay, that's fine. That would be great.
No problem. That's all cool. Okay, so the next morning comes and the rain has stopped. The sun is creeping over the horizon. You can just about see it in the gap in the mountains, and you can see it glistening on a crisp landscape. There's no more rain. The sky is relatively clear, and you see this sweeping, beautiful land before you. Because it was dark, you didn't really see Farwyde as you entered it, but now, in the light of day, it is a crystal wonderland as you're looking down this mountain and you see before you a city in the mountains that can only be Freedom's salvation. It appears to be a shining beacon amidst two mountains, and it is sat in the middle. You see a rushing waterfall pouring, cascading down the mountain next to it, and you can see wheels of windmills and strange chutes moving back and forth like along the side of this city with this black viscous liquid moving up and down it. Looks kind of strange. So you can see that it isn't going to take you about the morning to get there. You're likely to get there at midday if you left at daybreak.
I would say as we're packing up and getting all our stuff together, I would say if it's all right with you, I would carry the book. It has some experience in dealing with the rogue arcane, and so I think if it's all right with you, I would carry it.
You'll get no complaints from me here.
And I imagine whoever has the book, I don't know if I ended up with it or not, but in the morning, if it's laying out about us, I just sort of pass it over as I wake up and kind of adjust myself and get myself together.
Now, Rob, over the course of the evening, cast a couple ritual spells, detect magic, and I would also cast comprehend languages to see if there's any sort of information that I can glean. I know that the pages look like they're pretty much wiped, so it might not do anything, but just curious.
Okay, so it's comprehend language, and what was the other one you did?
Detect magic, which will just tell me if it's magic and what school of magic, I guess.
Yeah, so you can see, in terms of comprehend language, there isn't very much to go on. It's almost like you're getting white noise, as it were, when you try and get a language from it. That it's almost like you can see the ghosts of letters upon this page, upon all of the pages, in fact. But then it starts to get clearer. You see writing is beginning to form across the early pages of this book. And it simply says, Chapter 1, The Last March. And this story begins to fill in across the first couple of pages. It speaks of a daring attempt to reach a book inside a wagon that is teetering on the edge of oblivion. It speaks of a commanding voice telling the forces of evil to halt in its own tracks. It speaks of a monster, a beast that fought with the ferocity of an animal. And it speaks of magic, powerful magic used to save and destroy.
Azarax's mind is blown. In the morning, as Marius takes the book, he turns to him and he says, This book must be protected. I think you are a good choice to protect it. So take it. As he thinks to himself, unsure whether or not to tell the others what he's learned.
I think Raylan would notice a sort of, I'm not sure if it would be a smirk or a puzzled look, or I'm not sure. You said his mind is blown, and I think that Azarak seems like the kind of guy that's been around long enough to keep his cards close to his, his chest. But Raylan would notice a look that he hasn't seen before on Azarak. So he'd sort of look at him sideways and grin, like, and then let it kind of fall away.
There is going to be one hell of a story when we're done with this.
Yeah, that's an odd thing to say. I mean, yeah, I guess.
Okay. I'll take the book. On the outside, is it just plain sort of leather? Or does it have something on the front or on the back?
So yeah, I suppose I should probably tell you a bit more about just the sheer aesthetics of this thing. So as I said, it is this rough, tatty kind of book, but it is the front cover of it is this really kind of rich leather kind of feel to it. But not. It looks like leather, but you can tell it's something a bit different. And you can see as you brush a bit more dust off it and you give it a bit of a wipe, you can see that this is a remarkably put together book considering its sort of, ragged nature at first glance. But it doesn't have a cover, it doesn't have a title, sorry, there's nothing written on the front of it. But there is a symbol that's sort of on the spine of the book, and with a wipe of a thumb, moving some of the grit aside, you see an open volume with energy of some description pouring around it. like I can't aim at it properly. Yeah.
I would hold it and look at it and examine it, and then I would strap it shut, making sure that it can't open itself. I'm wary of that, and then I would just trace a symbol of my god, a mailed fist holding a lightning bolt. I would just trace that over the top, just in case, just in case something happens. And then I'll stuff it to the very, very bottom of my pack, wrap it up in some of my spare clothes and blankets and stuff, and then put it at the very bottom. So if someone was to search, it would be difficult for them to find it.
Excellent. So, is there anything you guys want to do or anything before you leave this cave to head towards Freedom Salvation?
I would say Raylan is definitely cleaning and packing his wound as discreetly as possible. He does a decent job of acting as though he's on the mend better than he probably is.
Would I notice you dealing with your wound?
Probably, especially as a as a witch hunter, you would see when prey is wounded. I think especially you, in fact, it's systematic soldier cleaning and dressing a wound, deep wound, probably from upper pectoral down to mid abdomen, healing but still needing to be cleaned and bandaged or it'll bleed.
Raylan, if you don't mind, I could take a look at that for you.
Oh, this? I got myself shaven.
Yes. And bravado will definitely help with the infection.
Tim, take a point of inspiration for that one-liner.
Thank you. And, Raylan he's stubborn, but he's not stupid, and he'd say, all right, if you don't mind.
Not at all. I would have put all my stuff on all my clothes, and it would just be at this stage where I would realize, and I would take off the gloves and rub my hands together, and I would say, now this may sting, and then I'll put my hands on the wound, and I'll use my Paladin's lay on hands ability. But it's kind of battlefield stuff. Like it cauterizes. It's not clean and neat. It's like, and then the wound is not going to be infected, but it'll fix it.
Right, right. Oh man, and you get a hefty. Oh damn it! You understated that. It sort of clinches, and now this. So, Lloyd, describe to me now what the wound would look like. How healed is it? What does this wound look like now?
So the main danger with wounds is the infection, especially in a time like this. And so the abilities that Marius would have and the servants of his god would have would be to stop that from happening, to like get you battle ready immediately, right? And so he just like places the hand on it, and it's like cauterized, like the wound looks like a fresh scar, but it's still definitely a scar. It's not like cleanly gone; it's still visible.
This is a big deal. Raylan isn't expecting this. If you've ever had a back injury or one of those lingering injuries that when you don't have it, you don't even think about it. But when you do have it, it's all you can think about. It's that same thing in that instant when, it hurts and through gritted teeth that maybe a few moments later it's just you've lifted a huge weight and you can see that there's gratefulness and there's thank you. I owe you for that.
We'll call it even. We managed to get through the night together. I'm sure there'll be many more times we will save my life.
Yep, it's you should see the other guy. And he points to the chest again. All right, and so he starts to get ready.
Yeah, Marius would chuckle at your constant bravado. Like he can see through it. He's like, yeah, I'm sure you gave him as good as you got. Put you on the shoulder and then go back to put his gloves on.
I think as far as with taxes, in terms of what he's doing the cleanup and getting ready to go, he's letting everybody do their own thing as he's doing his own thing, and he's listening to the conversations but not really paying attention. He is cleaning up the cave, getting rid of any and all sign of them ever being there. So all the fires are being put out, stamped out by his foot. Just everything that he knows to do, it's completely cleaned by the time they leave that cave. And then when he's ready, he walks up to the front with all of you there.
Are we ready to go now?
And I think as Taxis is doing that, Azarax is over on his side of the cave wherever he slept, and he's got sort of like a clay pot that has what looks like makeup in it, and he's stirring it, and he's got a couple other supplies, and he looks up and sees Taxis with his pronounced dragonborn face. And he closes the lid on his clay pot and puts it back in his pack and steps up and walks off with his new companions.
Chris, that's amazing. I love that. So you guys set off. And I think at this point Taxes would still be leading the way, being one who is very keen on survival and tracking and finding the right path. And it isn't long before you're making your way out of this kind of closed-in ravine. That you're seeing that these mountains are giving way to this sweeping, sloping land. You can see most of Farwyde from where you are standing, and you can see that it is a varied, strange, and beautiful-looking place. You can see a rather strange patch of woodland in the distance. You can see a strange outcropping of different-looking mountains that look like needles jutting into the air. In particular, interest is taken with the fact that above one of these is this glowing ball of energy in the distance that is sort of rolling around on itself. However, for now, most of your interest is taken by Freedom Salvation. This is a glorious city. Its walls gleam white in the morning sun. And as you get closer, you see those chutes that are running down by alongside it. And as you are getting closer, you're seeing workers, farmers, tilling land before this great city. And you have a look at these chutes, and you see that it's some strange kind of oil that is pouring out of these different chutes that are about, and you can see people working them, kind of almost farming in a sense with this oil. It's really peculiar. But you continue on the road, and you see these vast gates, and you can see that people are now approaching this this mountain city from different angles. You can see there's another winding path above another cliff face coming from the opposite direction from you, another to your left, and you sort of converge with this almost queue going into the city. There's the hustle and bustle of a morning city that's just waking up and coming to life. And you pass these gates, these vast gates, a portcullis which is lifted high, and a drawbridge that is down. As you go over this drawbridge, you see an unnerving drop that is another defense of this place, it would seem. It has these ramparts right up against this impossible-looking canyon. But you maybe stay a little way from the edge, perhaps. And then you're under the gatehouse, and then you're inside this vast, wondrous city. And as you're walking in, I'm going to roll a d4. Taxis is 1, Marius is 2, Azarax is 3, and Raylan is 4. Raylan, what's that look for?
It's Raylan's luck, that's why.
Well, you know, it's not so bad, because you feel an impact. You definitely feel an impact, but it's not an aggressive one. A small child, a 10-year-old girl or so, just collides into the back of your leg. And she gives a sort of, not frightened but surprised, oh, kind of noise as she does.
And Raylan would bow and say, "Do pardon me, madam?"
Oh, you're very kind. I do apologize. I was just rushing because you dropped this. And she holds up a bit of parchment, and it has a black seal upon it, and she hands it to you.
Raylan would look around suspiciously, and with his right hand, he would reach for the parchment, and his left hand hangs at his side with his fingers twitching slightly. And he, involuntarily, just this. And if it's possible, he would try to pop the wax seal with his thumb and sort of do the one-handed, like, slap open this scroll like it's a newspaper.
Absolutely, you do. You can, and although your trained, deft fingers hover over your hilt, you are still able to notice that when you pop this black wax seal, you see a strange symbol, a symbol of what appears to be a whispering pair of lips. And as you do so, there is a simple message that is scribed upon it, and it says, "Join me in the archive when the moon is at its full height, there is no name.
And if it's okay with you, I don't know if this would work, but I feel like more than normal, I almost hear the words in a whisper. Sort of like, but it can't be. And I sort of continue to look around. I look down at the little girl, and then, if my companions are near me at this point, I would do the sort of handoff. Like I would just, still looking around, probably hand it to Marius, continuing with my fingers twitching, and I would hand him the scroll.
And just one thing I will
yeah, of course.
is as you sort of go to hand this scroll to the others, you almost feel like, not a heart palp, I was going to say heart palpitation, but you almost feel your heart skip a beat. The kind of feeling you get when you think, no, you know someone is watching you. You don't know where, but someone is.
And I'm looking around.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, just based off of what he said, I would say I would continue to look around as I even more carefully hand this to Marius now, looking not just around, but trying to find the vantage points. Where would someone be watching us from?
Marius's immediate reaction upon seeing a child bump into Rylan would be that the child is stealing. And so he would take the piece of paper, and then he would grab the girl by the scruff of the neck, and he would say, "What did you take, child?"
Oh, I didn't take anything. I honestly, I didn't. I just saw that your friend dropped a bit of parchment, and
Silence.
I was merely
And he takes out this little necklace that he has, and it's a symbol of the witch hunters. He keeps it hidden at all times, except for when he needs to use it to bully people. He takes it out and he says, "Do you see this? This means I know when you're lying. What did you take?"
And as you take out that symbol, the girl's demeanor changes completely. No longer are her eyes round and wide and scared. They are now narrow and cunning. And she leans up towards you, Marius, and she says quite eloquently, "I know that symbol, and I know what it means. And rest assured, witch hunter, it does not frighten me. So I'm going to go now." And she goes to go again.
So I think while this whole thing is going down, at the beginning of it, Azarax had the exact same thought as Marius. Clearly, she's picking his pocket. So when Marius grabs the girl and shakes her, instinctively, Azarax turns the con around on the girl, and his thin, deft fingers go into her pockets and tries to see what she took.
Oh
And
my god.
depending on what happens from then, once he hears the change in the girl's demeanor, he's probably just going to slowly rethink and pull his hands out of her pockets.
Okay.
So
Okay. There is a silence, as all of you, I'm sure, are maybe a little bit stunned by this girl's sudden change in demeanor, and you are also aware that you are still just by the gatehouse, and there are guards. There are guards in these thick kind of leather and felt armor, and they kind of seem to start looking at this individual who is stopping this little girl from going about her day-to-day business.
You would see an exact switch in expressions, right? She goes from like wide-eyed and fearful to like narrow-eyed, and Marius goes from narrow-eyed to just wide-eyed and terror as this girl just like speaks to him about the witch hunter. And he just lets go of the girl, and he just like carefully puts the amulet back under the folds of his clothes, and almost like falls back away from her, like taking a step or two, kind of falling backwards, and then eventually, like once she's maybe gone out of sight, he would look at the piece of paper.
And with that, like a flash, the girl just just crouches down and just legs it and just vanishes into the crowd. Those guards that I mentioned, they don't move, but you notice, especially Taxes, that their gaze lingers particularly on a strange creature, a creature that they are not used to seeing at all. And then their gaze sort of looks towards the drow, the dark elf, and while they don't move, they begin whispering to each other. For they may never have seen a dragonborn. Some of them might not have even heard of them. They definitely know what a drow is. The Underdark Wars weren't that long ago. There were 2 of them. And it is fresh in their minds. And as they whisper, what are you doing? Are you moving off into the city?
I think it is time to go, my friends.
Yes, yeah. Let's go.
I think at that point too, Taxes is at that position where he like hears them talking. He can hear. I'm assuming his perception is they're close enough whispering to him that he can hear that, and he just sort of smirks under his breath. And as he's walking through, he'll even go up there and talk to it.
Why don't you come down here and whisper those things in front of my face? If you really want to start talking about somebody you don't know.
And once again, as with the sellsword, when this tale began, their eyes widen a little bit and they sort of shrink back into their positions. But they appear to sort of have this glower, this distaste in their eyes.
I would try and smooth things over as possible. I would go over and I would put a hand on Taxes, like up on Taxes' shoulder. Marius is a big dude, but Taxes is towering. I'd put a hand on his shoulder and I'd say, "Come on, buddy, we should go." And I'll just look to the guards and I'll say, "Sorry about that. We've had a long journey. It's been difficult. Keep up the good work." You know, and he's just like flustered.
And as Marius makes this attempt to sort of smooth things over, and you instantly excuse yourself, and you all end up bustling along with this crowd that is pushing you in, I like to imagine our vision raising up, and you see the full glory of Freedom Salvation, this towering city amidst the mountains, and we move away to a different mountain. An old man, wizened, with a long white beard and a bowl patch right on the top, is shaking. He looks up as yet another punch lands firmly on his jaw and he hits the ground. He spits blood and he looks up. 4 silver guards surround him, and a voice echoes from behind them. That's enough for now. The silver guard part, and we see an individual wreathed in a red cloak with his back to this old man. You assured me, Amos, that your spell would render them all into ashes. Yet you failed. He doesn't once turn round. The old man Amos looks up blood dribbling from his lips. And he says, Equinox, my lord Equinox, please forgive me. Next time I will do better. Next time, Equinox says, is a luxury you will not be experiencing. And the old man howls. He howls and howls, and in one moment, his skin is lifted by the wind into yellow embers. Equinox stands looking from his mountain vigil, flanked by his silver guard. He lifts his hand, his gauntleted hand, closes a fist, opens it, and this yellow energy pours from him into a glowing yellow blade. And he looks at it. One of the silver guard approaches from behind and says, my lord Equinox, our scouts report that they made it. They made it to Freedom Salvation. And Equinox turns, that one yellow eye glinting, and he says, Freedom Salvation. I shall put the name to the test. And that is where we will end tonight's session.
That was amazing, man.
Fucking unreal.
Oh my god, that was so good.
Better than advertised.
Yep. Fucking great, Rob. Nice job. So good.
I'm glad you guys liked it. So I have not had a chance to have a look into the chat, so I'm going to have a really quick look, if you don't mind, before we finish. But Lorekeepers, if you need to dash, I know I tried to wrap it up. Are you okay for time?
It's good. I am going to split, but let me just say that was an absolutely amazing game. My God. Wow. There were like, oh my God. I was so many just juicy, theatrical scenes that were just, oh my God, it was awesome, man. You totally killed it, man. I mean, we knew you were going to kill it, but thanks for coming through, because I was amazing.
Yeah, I am really glad, because you guys kept hyping it up, and I was like, the pressure. So oh my God, you guys were maddened with your enthusiasm.
It was fantastic.
Fucking nailed it, man. So good. Great.
And all the characters, man, everybody was just...
Oh my God, you guys are amazing, all of you. Chad, that voice is insane.
What the fuck is that about? It's so good.
Amazing, man, unbelievable.
I don't know, because I went into this going, I should probably do like a normal-ish voice, because then people can understand me. And then I was like, nah, just go ham with it and just take it to town, you know?
That was great, man. So good. I am going to split, guys. I'm sorry I got to go, but I cannot wait for round 2, man. I can't wait. It's going to be amazing.
Yeah, man, we'll get on it as soon as we can. But, dude, thank you ever so much for being a part of this.
Dude, thank you.
I really appreciate it, man.
Oh, my God, are you kidding? My pleasure.
Thank you, Lorekeepers. It was amazing. And I don't want to be a downer, but I need to split as well.
Yeah, okay, well, in that case, then, if we're all going, what I will say is if you would like to make your exits then, and in that case, Lorekeepers, you got to go first, so if you'd like to do your sign-off first.
My name's Lorekeepers. You know how to find me. Just Google Lorekeepers. You're going to find me. And I'll see you guys later.
Take it easy,
Awesome,
man.
I'm Tim with Tabletop Terrors. I'm also a quarter of Absolute Tabletop. This has been amazing. Thank you so much for having me, and I can't wait for the next game. Don't forget to subscribe to Performance Check.
Thank you so much, man, and it's been a pleasure to have you too, man. I am honored. I am absolutely honored.
Dude, expect just so much in the chat. I can't wait to just talk about this game.
Yeah, man, we're gonna go wild. Okay.
I can't wait. So have a good night, everybody. Thanks for watching.
Take it easy, Tim.
Talk to you later, guys.
God, like this is the end of like The Sound of Music. So long, farewell.
Yeah, I mean, like I'm gonna have to take off probably too. But
Yeah, that's
with
fine,
that being
Chad.
said, though, guys, you guys are incredible. Lloyd, man, I've been waiting to play with you for like
Forever.
what 2 years? It's been like
Yep.
2 years since
Absolutely
OSG
crazy.
started. You and I have never had an opportunity to really be in a game together. This has been insane. I didn't know what to do going in because I told myself I wanted to know absolutely nothing about my character. Rob and I have talked about it. I wanted to do nothing. So when I came out of the gate with RP, I was like, okay, I'm gonna let Rob kind of push me in the direction I need to go, and then later on I'll figure out what needs to be done.
Oh,
So I
and
was-
you'll know when it happens, man.
Okay.
So thanks, Chad. Give us your sign off then, man.
But yeah, man. Okay, guys. Hi, my name is Chad Nick. You guys can find me on YouTube at Chad Nick. I go by DM Gastro Gamer. So eventually, that YouTube channel, whenever I can fix it, is going to be named Gastro Gamer, and you guys will be able to check that out. But until then, you guys can find me at gastrogamer.wordpress.com, and I will talk to y'all later.
Amazing. Take it easy, man. Thank you
Thanks,
ever so
buddy.
much for joining
Bye.
me, man. Real pleasure. Real pleasure.
Bye, guys.
Take it easy. And now there were two.
Yeah. Oh man, it's so good, so cinematic. I was really impressed. It was like super. It felt like a movie the whole way through, which is great. It's like a hard
Oh,
thing to
that's
capture,
amazing.
but it really felt like that. It was great.
Thank you ever so much for saying, man. So, I mean, it's time for your sign off as well, man. So, why don't you go ahead and give it?
Jarl DM on the YouTubes and at jarldm.com. If you like Viking stuff, then on the channel.
Absolutely, he is. And from watching his stuff, a lot of stuff over the recent times anyway, I can absolutely guarantee that Lloyd is one of the best out there, man. So check it out. So for all of you still watching, all four of you, thank you ever so much, all of you for watching. It's been a real pleasure. And it's been great for me to finally put my money where my mouth is in terms of DMing, because I speak a lot about it, but this is the first time I've done it online. So thank you ever so much. If you like what you see, give it a like. If you want to see more of it, perhaps give me a subscribe. And I hope that all of your performances are up to standard. Do you want to give a wink, Lloyd, quickly? There we go. Take it easy, guys.